No, we're good. We were talking about filmmaking anyway, so it's fine. I just don't like when we don't talk about filmmaking. We're going on for 30 minutes while everyone's here for filmmaking. All right. Oh, Priscilla got kicked out. Priscilla, you got kicked out. All right, I'm letting you in.
They have the leave meeting button. They have the leave meeting button as like the first button, and so sometimes I'll just instinctively press it, and yeah.
Okay. So the first thing we're going over is the editing exercise. This is the rough cut. We filmed this, well, when was that? Friday. And then I was working the weekend, so I was actually up all for a while today and yesterday doing the editing for this. So it's still in a rough cut. Doesn't have the color grading or the sound or anything. And there's a few probably mistakes in here somewhere since I basically just finished right before we started the meeting. So
we had a super busy week, and we were trying as hard as we could to like get everything done. And so when we went to do it, everything that possibly could have gone wrong did go wrong with the sound and with the image and everything. Coda will explain later, but the whole purpose of the exercise was to show like the transitions and stuff.
The parallel editing or cross-cutting is what the exercise is about.
Parallel editing, and so hopefully we got that across, but please forgive the very, very rough editing. And also, Coda's not that fat in real life, I will just say. The camera widened him out quite a bit.
We used a wide angle lens.
Yeah. We used very close, wide lenses, and so we looked a lot pudgier than we are.
Makes sense. No, it looks good.
But it made sense for the story, so.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is I forgot to do this, but James had told us when we were doing our short film, don't use the letters O or I when you are doing the slate, because it gets mixed up when you're in editing, or when you're looking at it, it can be mixed up for a 0 or a 1. And so those can get, it's not too crazy important, but it does help a lot to not have those letters included, because you don't want to have any mix-ups either whenever someone's looking at the footage or when they are putting it into the computer. Either way, those can get mistaken, and then it can mess up the organization of things.
Unless you like an eye, if you do like it very specific to look like an eye versus a 1, you can do that.
Yeah,
but even if you put it in the computer, that's where it starts looking more like a 1 again, which is why they say just don't use it on set.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
All right, here's our clip. I think it's like a minute.
Can we help my snacks? The wrapper's right there on the table. Tell her she ate it and then forgot. Well,
I can't hear it.
Gaslighter, we should just say yes.
Oh, that's another thing that I'll explain later with the sound.
Is it too quiet?
Yeah,
it's super quiet.
I'd rather be able to hear you. This is well done.
Yeah, except for the sound.
No.
I don't know if it turns up for you guys if I turn my sound up. Does it?
Last time it did.
Let me see.
So what happened was, can I tell them what happened with the sound already? And then we show the rest.
Can we help my snacks?
Is it louder?
Quick, tell her no. No, she clearly knows we ate it. The wrapper's right there on the table. Tell her she ate it and then forgot. Well, no, we shouldn't gaslight her. We should just say yes. Yeah. No, because then she's gonna get mad. Well, we're already saying yeah. Well, fine. Then yeah, I did. But tell her we're doing it for her so that she doesn't get mad. That sounds good. Is it though? Yeah.
This is very laggy.
She wants to lose weight. We're helping her with that. All right, I guess. Yeah, all right. But I did it for you because I don't want you to get fat. You know we should eat something. Well, it was worth a shot.
There we go. So yeah, it was pretty laggy. The sound,
It's so bad.
the sound was so bad.
So bad. No, everything's. Oh God. Okay.
Well, that's
So
the
here's
rough
the thing.
cut.
Oh, okay. Oh God.
think that's
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. We started recording, and multiple times throughout, this is my fault too. I'm not saying it's just Coda's. It's also Coda's. Multiple times I was like, honey, it's buzzing. It's kind of weird. Like, is it loud? Is the microphone louder, like closer to me? Because the sound is showing that it's higher where I am than where you are. But the mic was like relatively close. I was like, no, I don't think there's anything. I think it's just because it's in between us or whatever. And later we found out that
At the end.
at the end, at the very end, after we finished everything, we found out that it wasn't plugged in to the external mic.
No, it was. It just wasn't. So the Zoom, you can switch it between the mics that are attached to the Zoom H4n itself and the external mic. So we didn't have it set to doing the external mic. So
And I was like,
the Zoom H4n, the handy recorder, whatever, Priscilla had it over by her, and so it sounded way louder near her instead of near where I was. Where even though we were setting up the mic, the shotgun mic,
but because I didn't know a lot, like because I didn't know that much about it, I couldn't explain to him exactly what I thought was wrong, but I could clearly see that my levels were higher than his, but because I couldn't monitor the entire time, because I also had to keep track of the camera and direct and help and stuff, I couldn't monitor and do that at the same time. So I thought it was just a fluke every now and then, like when the mic was closer, and I couldn't explain what was going on. And he didn't understand what I was saying either. And so it was like a big miscommunication. And then at the end, we figured, oh crap, that happened. And it got to the point where we couldn't finish the cut. We got the rough cut done, but we didn't get to finish it in time either because we were so busy. We stayed up until like 7 a.m. because Coda came home from work, and then he passed out. And then he woke up and tried to do everything. It was so much. But the whole basis of it, in case you guys couldn't hear that last part, because the last part was really quiet, is this has happened in real life multiple times.
no one hasn't.
Yes, it has. You've eaten my stuff a bunch. Shut up. Anyway, I will buy something and I take longer to eat it because I'm not a compulsive person who has no self-control like some people. And so I will take multiple days to eat my snack, and Coda will eat all of his. And at some point, he'll have nothing left to snack on. And it's not shade, I promise. If we're being honest,
Yes.
okay? Marriage is about honesty. Anyway, so at some point, he will be like, can I eat your snacks? Or sometimes he won't even ask. And next thing I know, he'll be snacking little by little, but he'll think that I'm also eating. And so next thing I know, my Oreos or my chips or whatever will be like practically empty. And I'll be like, did you eat my stuff? And he was like, yeah, but I thought you were eating it with me. And so I thought you wouldn't notice. So yeah, so that happens. And I'm also constantly complaining about how, I want to lose weight. Like I got the COVID 30 or whatever they call it. And
Honey, you don't have to explain everything about why we wrote it. Anyway, the real thing is,
I just didn't want them to think that you were all like, it's a thing that we do. We like joke around about each other, how we both want to lose weight. And we also eat snacks. And so we're not really helping, but I eat less snacks than him and he eats all my crap. So basically that's the backstory behind this.
Anyway, so this still doesn't have the sound fixed. Obviously, it also doesn't have sound effects or music or color grading. So, I mean, clearly, when you edit the first time, it's always the worst. So, it's just a rough cut.
In a tiny apartment, there's not many places to hide it. I've tried hiding his snacks. I've tried doing that.
V said, this is why I hide my favorite snacks.
Yeah, but there's nowhere to hide this crap. We live in a very small
I don't eat
apartment.
her favorite snacks. Like,
Well, that's, you don't don't like Doritos, but everything you like, you eat.
All right. Well, does anyone have any comments, questions, or do they have did anyone exercise? Did anyone do the exercise themselves?
I like
All
your
I was gonna say was that at the end that we couldn't hear was basically him saying like, oh, she talks about how she's trying to lose weight. We're helping by eating her snacks. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then the other guy like, is it though? And he's like, yeah. And then he turns into the bad thought as well, because the bad thought convinced the good thought to go along with it. Because that last part was really without sound. Sorry, that's all I wanted to explain. But I also wanted context.
Oh yeah. So the parallel editing is going between the conscious thoughts, subconscious thoughts, and me sitting on the couch talking to Priscilla, trying to figure out what to say and whether I should lie or not.
Yeah, I think that came out pretty good. I think the concept is really awesome, and sound is okay. It doesn't bother me that much, but I think the shots were good, and the paralleling came out really good. I think the concept gelled into it very well, because you have like good thought, bad thought, and I like the wardrobe design, and also your lighting.
Yeah.
Also lighting, I think, is kind of for good it was brighter, and for bad it was like dark. So
Yep.
Yeah,
And subconscious, I turned it a little bit darker as well. For the bad, we used hard lighting, and for the good, we used soft lighting, and we made it a little bit brighter.
But
What was
basically, because our apartment's so small, all we did was like a sheet on the wall, and we were trying to set it up in a very.
I was just setting it up like a comedy sketch. Like, who cares? You guys ever watch SNL or some other comedy sketches? They don't.
I know, but I wanted it a little. I wanted it to be better, but we just couldn't at that point. And I'm very much
always wants it to be perfect, but I'm telling her like it's a comedy sketch. It's not the same as
I would
a
worry too
short
much.
film. A short film, obviously, you put more effort into.
Right. I
But a
think
comedy sketch, like you kind of just they do so many of them, they kind of just throw up stuff and do it like this.
sorry, Bish. Go ahead.
I think the exercise was for cross-cutting, paralleling. So that was the key, I think.
Yeah.
What was the stuff in the beginning? Was that the packet of chips or something in the front? Yeah, this one. What is that?
There's actually a packet of Oreos, but we just put Generios over it.
Oh, okay.
Generic.
Okay.
Avoid copyright.
That way, it's no branding on there.
That's pretty good.
And I actually took all of the Oreos out, put it in a bag so that we'd have the empty box. And
All
then
right. So did anybody else do the exercise or have any other comments, questions?
This is for the crosscut, right?
Yeah, either crosscut or parallel editing.
I'm half done mine.
You said you have?
It's half done, so I'll send it Thursday.
Well, you can share your screen if you'd like. I'll just stop
But
sharing.
it's not done. It said half done.
Oh, you don't want to share the half?
No, because it's not put together. I have like all the pieces.
Oh, okay. I got
So
you.
so I have all the pieces put together. I know that seems like it doesn't seem like that's half done, but for me that's half done because I was having trouble with my computer and getting the pieces.
Yeah, that's fine.
So because I know the editing, that's actually the easy part, but because I was having trouble getting all the pieces, I ran out of time to throw it together.
Yeah, no.
Like the hard
it's
part
no
is
problem.
like coming up with the idea, building it. The easy part is like cutting.
I don't know. I think the hard part's cutting it. I mean, shooting it's obviously really hard, but cutting it together is pretty hard because you have to like really be, I don't know. Like there's so many routes you can take, so many different takes you can go with.
Yeah.
Kind of have to like put it all together.
I feel like editing is twice as long as the filming process for a reason, because there's a lot of choices you can make. There's a lot of breaking it down that you have to do. It's a lot. Like we took, I think it was like 5 or 6 hours just to do that, just to do this skit nonstop.
Oh, just to film it. Yeah, not to.
Yeah, just to film it. Yeah. And then the editing, we like Coda was on it all day and we still didn't get it completely done. So.
Yeah. But yeah, all right. So does anybody else did anybody else do the editing exercise.
I'll show you if it's not a big deal. I'll show you guys Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that.
And I'm sorry, honey. I didn't mean to shade you. I feel bad now. I feel like I
V
was.
new. V new. All right. So the other exercise we were doing was the color grading exercise. I actually used, oh wait, where is it at? So I actually found some footage. What was that, Vish?
Go ahead. You want to show yours and then I'll show mine.
Okay, yeah, I'll show mine first. All right, so I actually found some footage on YouTube that the person put up for color grading. And I went into DaVinci Resolve. My iMac, I don't have the operating system up to date enough to be able to use DaVinci Resolve 17 on my iMac, because I want to make sure that Premiere Pro and my After Effects still work on it, since they're older versions. Because I had updated before and it stopped working on one of my older. I had an even older version of After Effects. So instead of doing that, I went to my PC and I downloaded DaVinci Resolve and just got some footage online and started editing it. And I was surprised by how much you can do. Like, I can see why it is the main software used for color grading, because you can just isolate things. This is it ungraded. Then I made it sort of like fall. And obviously, I'd have to do a little bit more stuff here. Like, all the trees are too uniform. But I just found it really surprising at how different I can make this look and how isolated I can make things. I can take the qualifier on DaVinci Resolve is really cool, where you can just kind of grab part of the image and it'll try to nab all the color that is the same as that. And you can like drag it across the screen to pick up multiple colors. So for the trees, I would just like grab one of the trees that looked a little different and then have there'd be a few trees, like you can see these are some green. So some of those would have like green leaves, or they'd be a different color.
Yeah, there'd be a little more difference in color and contrast to
I think
them.
in reality, they're a bit more yellow, and then like the ones in between are green, and then there's some orange ones. So you can really select those and just isolate all the ones that are kind of that color. And that's sort of what I tried to do. Clearly, I'd have to, do some more masking and things like that. I didn't really take too long of a time doing this, but I changed the sky a few times. So this is more like a bright fall. This is more like if everything was more green. I changed the color of the water a little bit and the sky a different shade of blue. Just made it a little bit darker. And then like more of like a dead, like autumn's over, it's getting ready to be winter. The lake's a little bit more green. The sky's a little bit more gray, and everything just a little more dead. And then I just tried to see if I could do something like, sort of like an alien type of planet, or a different planet with different kind of
Or a Zack Snyder film.
Zack Snyder, because it's overly saturated.
Yeah.
Where it's like a purple water, purple sky. The only thing I couldn't really figure out was how to like make these plants look like they're glowing. So, but I found it really interesting to like start actually using that program, because it's really cool to get involved with. I can see why it has such a huge learning curve, because those using the nodes instead of like layers is very different and kind of hard to get right. But
and there's definitely a different in lighting in between the trees as well. So
Which program is this?
I was using, well, this is just the pictures, but I was using DaVinci Resolve to get this.
DaVinci Resolve. Is that like free, or is that a buy one? I can't.
Yeah, no, there's a free version, and that's the one I downloaded on my computer, and it let me do all of these.
Yeah. Ugh.
And like I said, like I think this one looks the best for like most realistic. This one, I feel like there's like too little bit of green on the orange, and then I don't know, this one's
and
okay.
Is it just me, or like some spill in that more orange one?
This one?
Or is it, yeah, I feel, is that supposed to be, or
Spill where?
like in the corners near the ocean?
Oh, like the reflections of the trees?
Yeah, but it doesn't just look like reflections. It looks like a little bit of, I don't know, I could be wrong. It just looks maybe a little like too uniform, I guess. Too much.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like that, like I said, like I'm not a professional grader. I just thought it was really cool to start actually learning that program, and seeing what I can do just from messing with a few few things, isolating some stuff and masking it out. You can really change the looks of things and make it all very different.
Oh no, I'm not trying to like criticize the work. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like I
You're
wanted
fine.
to know if you'd have to, like if you were doing this, if you'd have to go in and like polish those little details as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were trying to actually if I was trying to make a short film out of this, or if I was trying to post this online as a picture, I would definitely take more time making different masks, isolating different parts. So what I did was like, there's a few different shades of tree like this. The greens, there's a few more that are a little bit yellower and a few more that are darker green. What I would have done if I was like trying to do it for like an actual picture, not as an exercise, I would isolate the trees a bit more, just doing like individual here and there, and then I could have more variety in the color scheme than what I got with just kind of unifying them.
Actually, your reflections look better on the first one,
Which one? This
the top one.
this one?
Yeah, see that the reflections of the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks more prominent in this one.
Yeah,
So
and I
that-
did that on
that-
purpose because I was trying to make it look like it was glowing.
Right.
But I know there's some effect you can do to make it actually look like it's glowing, but I didn't know how to do it in DaVinci was all.
Actually, you can distinguish between the trees, which are, the leaves which are in the foreground and the leaves which are in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The leaves in the foreground are brighter.
Yeah, and the other ones are hidden behind like shadow
Yeah.
and stuff from other trees.
Right. So your midtones are your highlights are kind of pretty good, and and the reflection of that highlights into the water is also pretty nice. It shows up more here than the rest of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
kind of dampened it, especially in this one. Well, actually, I don't know. I thought I dampened it.
I know you could probably
Yeah,
make it
it's
look
good.
like it's like something from like you can like you can color the trees in more. Like you could probably like I use Photoshop, but is there a specific reason you want to use DaVinci?
I just wanted to use DaVinci because it's used for filmmaking, where Photoshop is more used for just, photos.
And also
Okay.
it's free and there's a lot more that you can do with the free version than with the free version of Photoshop, at least in my experience. Like the free version doesn't give you as much as DaVinci does as far as like
Because
control
DaVinci, you
and
can
detail.
also do the timeline and edit in it and all that other stuff. So I just really wanted to learn that program, or at least start off learning it, like I was trying to do in this exercise. But yeah, all right. Does anybody else have the color grading exercise they want to show?
I have something.
Fish said he was going to go after you.
All right. I'm going to hold on.
Sorry, Brian. I just remembered he said that. And then
No,
Brian
no,
can
I
go.
can go. I can wait. I can go through it because, like I said, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. My computer's retarded right now. But no offense to anybody that's retarded, but yeah.
Oh no. Shut up. Anyway, we can don't worry, you can start maybe loading it up and while Vish does his, and then we'll see when it's your turn. How about that?
Are you able to see?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. So let me actually briefly mention, I kind of put together a sequence. Oops. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, somehow I think, let's see. It's kind of,
Oh, was that a flower? What was that?
somehow it's, yeah, I'm getting the frame rate problem. So let me actually get back to that. I'll have somebody else do it.
Okay.
That was a cool looking flower. What flower is that? It looked kind of like hydrangeas, but different.
So Vish, were you gonna do the color grading exercise? You're gonna show that, or are you just gonna stop sharing? Oh, okay. All right, Brian, would you like to go first?
All right, let's try. Where's the screen sharing option? Screen share. Let's try that.
All right, we can
Oh.
see it.
So this is my old computer. So as we talked about with monitors and stuff, like this is a really, not only is it an old computer, it's a really cheap computer. So
It
like,
looks old by the little gray.
yeah, this is a very, very old Vegas update. And it is also, the monitor is like way off color grade. So I'm actually I'm looking at it on my computer, but then I'm also looking at the differences in the way it actually looks on my phone. So this
Okay.
is
Well, you can
one of
always
my,
send like screenshots of your phone through email if you want later, and we can like share them in the group so they can see
yeah.
like the differences.
But anyway, let's see. This is, and it's still loading up. This is, oh, there it goes. This is film school. This is like one of my very first. So this is shot entirely DSLR, first generation DSLR, by the way. And this is when I was kind of like learning the in and outs of
First generation,
lighting.
what year was that?
2012, I think.
Wow.
This was shot on Nikon, but this is around the same time that the 7D and the 5D were popular, and like people were, trying to experiment and stuff. So like I went in the camera and I dulled off all the settings. I took all the color out, took a lot of the saturation, a lot of the contrast out. You come back and you add it. So this is what it looks like once you color it versus without it. So in camera, put it in post, and you get like one of these. And this here is all the filters that I use to go.
So in your phone, would that be more red, more orange, or would it be less? Like it would be more saturated or less?
In my phone, it would be
because you said it would be more correct as far as like the color. Just so I can
on my computer, it looks very different. Like on the phone, it looks a little bit more crushed, and it's like off by a couple stops here. It doesn't look bad.
Oh, so it's not too, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, it's not bad. So it's just more subtle, I suppose, or more.
Yeah, it's hard for me to color grade on this computer because I'll grade, and then like when I get it to look good on the computer, it'll may like, okay, I'll give you an example. So like I'll go like, if I go like that, that doesn't look bad on my computer, but on the phone, the actual blacks are a little bit too crushed on my phone, but on the computer, it looks fine. You get what I'm saying? It's off.
Yeah, because it was overly contrasty, saturated on
yeah.
from my
So like
view anyway.
No, it's crazy how the smallest difference, like sometimes my phone can be just a little darker, a little lighter, and it can make a huge difference to how the image looks. So
that's what I was saying when we were talking about it. Like you want a calibrated screen, and then you also want to use, as you can see, I have down here are the histograms. So when I was learning, they were telling me like, you want these waves to kind of like be in the middle. You don't want them to be on the direct end, which they are. So like, according to the histogram, this is what you want, but it looks terrible. It looks pretty bad.
Right.
So like you can't always go by the histogram as well. So like right around here, is where, for me, let me see, right around, I'm good with that. Which, you know, I think at this point, like before, when I screened it for film school, like I had it, like originally it wasn't even looking like this. It was looking pretty terrible. And then as
What
time
grade
goes
did you
on,
get?
oh, of course, I won best script for this one.
Oh, I'm talking about the grading.
Are you talking about the color grading?
Yeah. Didn't you get grade on that too, or was it just the story?
No, I think for this one, I won best script for this one. That was it. Because this was for a festival. This wasn't like a
Oh,
project.
yeah, I got you.
Let's see. So like right around here. So this is so we were talking, we also talked about like the different filters and stuff. You had brought up the color curves. Here's the S that you were mentioning, like all the softwares on it. And I had also brought up that a lot of these filters they kind of do the same thing, but just different. So like the color curves takes the extreme, which would be on the histogram, would be like from here to here, and then it curves it out. But like if you're not trying to use these lines or anything, if you want bars, like if you're used to numbers, if you're trying to like mimic something, there's a brightness. I never used the levels on this. See, this was before I learned how to use the leveler. Brightness and contrast would be the filter that I would use. But I didn't touch anything with this one. Let me try it. Let me add up. Let's see. Let's do. So the color curves for me would be the equivalent would be this levels filter, which you can, let me take these colors off. The color curve, take that off, boom. So the levels, instead, if you don't want to use the color curves, the levels is kind of like, so this way you don't have the curve, but you can manipulate the highlights and the shadows in the same way and manipulate it in that feature. And you have all these numbers to replicate it. So like if you want to crush your blacks, you would come down here and do that. And then let's say me, I like to like overdo it and then bring some of the contrast back. That's not doing that. Come this way, bring that back up. That's looks terrible. Then when you do that, like you lose a lot of. Bring some of that back. Bring some of that back. This would be more or less something that you would see on television. And this is, I think, your highlights. You want to bring some of that back. So that pretty much does the exact same thing as your color curves would. And let's see what that looks like without it. That's with the curves, and then take the color curves off and then put the levels on. So like if you're not trying to fiddle around with curves, you could use levels and stuff like that. Did I put a saturation? I did. Brought the saturation back. Yeah, so I really think I pushed this footage as far as I possibly could. Like I don't think it's possible to grade it anymore, bring out any more colors or bring out any more shadows any more than I already have. It's pretty much as you're gonna get out of DSLR footage as possible. If you want anything better, you're gonna have to upgrade your camera at this point because
honestly, I think for an early DSLR, it looks pretty darn good to me anyway.
Yeah, I think I've maxed out this camera pretty much with what I've done here. So that's my this is pretty much my my workflow going on. This is a really old workflow. This is like a couple years, no, not even a couple years, a few years old. But you know, you put you start off with nothing here, and then you know you add a color curves or levels. Nowadays, like I start with the levels. I don't even go to the color curves unless I can't get the contrast that I want.
So is the most updated version of the one that you have anyway on your other computer, does it look like this, like for the adjustments and stuff, or is it in more of a vertical view? or something.
What do you mean a vertical view? What are you talking about?
Like, you know how it just layers everything on top of each other instead of putting it side by side like it's doing in this, where it's like the color correctors to the left, levels are to the right.
Oh, it's just doing that for space, I guess. I don't know. I think you can adjust it, but you would imagine
Oh,
this
I'm
would
just
be
saying
on,
like the newest version of the one that you have on the other computer that you're actually
no,
using now. Does it look
the
the
look
same setup or is it different? Because
it
the tools are
looks
probably similar, but it's just like,
pretty much it looks I'm not gonna lie, it looks the same. It looks the same, but you can go in here in the menus and you can alter the way, like I think if you don't like this layout, you could do it like this or like that, and it kind of changes it a little bit. Then you can go in the menus, and if you want it to be vertical, you could do that. Like if I didn't want this, like I like my timeline on the top because to me that's where the most important stuff is. And you could take this out, and you can go and bring this over to another screen and look at it that way. It doesn't have to be attached to the thing.
gotcha.
And let's see what else. But you could change it. You could put this up on the top if you want. Like most people, I'm different. I'm old school. Like I like to have my timeline on the top, but every time I look at tutorials and stuff, everybody has their viewer on the top and their timeline on the bottom and stuff like that. But me, I just like to have my timeline on top because it's just down here you have all these distractions in your bar down here, and I don't know, I just like to have my timeline on top. That's just me.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, I don't feel like it's a rule. I feel like it's definitely a matter of preference.
yeah. But let's see. But yeah, if your concerns are like, top and bottom, you would imagine like this color curve, this is the first one I put on. So left to right, this is the first one. So this will be on the bottom. The brightness and contrast would be on top of that. The saturation would be on top of that. The sharpening would be on top of that, to get an idea of like which one is on top. And I just put this levels on. So this levels is the newest one, and that's going to be on top of everything else.
Gotcha.
I had also mentioned the last class. So this is just a color grading process. It has this old school retro look. That's the look I'm going for. And I haven't done any color correction because I think I got it pretty accurate in camera. But if you were to color correct, let's just say I didn't have the right white balance or anything. There's this color corrector filter on there, and you can, like I said, they pretty much do a lot of the same thing, just in different variations. So you have your low, your mids, and your highs. And you have your saturation, gamma, and all that stuff for the color correction filter. But then you have another one. What's this? This is the one the color balance. This is the one I use the most. They do the same thing, but just in different variations. So the color corrector pretty much puts colors on top of pixels that are already existing. The color balance manipulates the pixels differently. It doesn't put colors on top of it. It takes those colors and alters them in a way. So like if I wanted to bring more warmth into the color, I could do it that way. And then normally when I reverse it, it kind of goes that way to give it kind of that yellow vibe to it. But like I said, like nothing, I don't think I want to add any color to that. And you could shift between whether or not you want to have whatever look you want. Like if you want it to be more warm, let me see what that looks like right there. Or if you want it to be more cool, you would come to, oh, it's too much. This way. Yeah, cool is kind of like, because it's daylight, that kind of works a little bit better.
Mhm.
Let's see, this is
Either one works. Like it's not like it just makes it look more warm outside or colder outside, really.
yeah, if you take it away. Yeah,
Right.
so, but the color corrector, it doesn't really it doesn't manipulate the colors in the same way. It just puts colors on top of already existing colors. Because it's pretty much telling you, like, let's say, I don't have any examples for this one, but let's just say, like I said, I didn't do the white balance. It would look, let's say it came out of camera looking like this. Let me give you an extreme. If I had the wrong white balance, it would look something like that. So let's just pretend it came out of camera looking like that. So we want to fix that. You would go here and then put this one on top and try to take it. This is, yeah, terrible. But to try to fix that, you would kind of use your color. That kind of fixes it. This color correction is too extreme, but you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It looks like the color balance is balancing the color of the character with the rest of the thing.
Yep, it's manipulating the pixels in a way. The color corrector, it puts colors on top of everything. It doesn't
Right.
alter it. So like, let's say, because that's what it's doing. All it's doing is correcting it. So like if you expose incorrectly, or if you put the wrong color temperature in, and you're like, oh man, I don't like it or whatever, you would have to. Most people would try to use the color corrector to try to fix it. I usually go for the color balance because it takes away a lot of that. So like, let's say you have if it looks like this straight out of camera and you don't want it to, which it doesn't look too bad, but if you want to try to fix it, and you would try to manipulate the pixels a little bit more and just, so like this is with the filter on, and then this is me using the color balance right here to try to fix it. So let's just say like this, the way it is now, it came out of camera looking like that. You want to try to fix it, you would use the color balance and then try to manipulate colors to try to get it to look more natural and whatnot.
So your color balance is the last step that you do on your.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Color balance is like the last one, either the last one or the what's another one I use? But yeah, the color balance is usually, the saturation. That's the difference. Let's see. I think I do color balance first and then put saturation on there because that affects it differently as well. But yeah, I don't really touch saturation too much. But yeah, but that's pretty much my workflow as far as like color grading goes. Let me see if I can get you another scene. Is this the whole movie or is it just this one piece here? Let me think. Let me see. Oh, I didn't edit this stuff yet either. This is another one. Let me see.
Nice contrast lighting that you had on there.
Oh yeah, this is magic hour. So this is literally as we're shooting, the sun is going down. We're losing so much light.
But you had some reflectors because you can see actually the sun is coming from the right side, but the left side is also very well.
I think in this shot, during this time of the day, we lost the sun, so we took a what do you call it? An airy kit light and just blasted it on the side of them to kind of replicate the sun a little bit. Yeah, them things are pretty. Yeah, them things are pretty bright. And then we put a reflect. You can see the reflector in his catch light right here. And then you get to see, is this the one where we get a little bit of, you can see it's hitting his face. Right. And then
that's right.
Let me see. That's color balance. Let me put a levels filter on there. Yeah, this is before what do you call it? This is before we had like LUTs and stuff like that. Yeah. This is like when they're starting to introduce LUTs and everything into the film industry. So like before LUTs, you had to learn how to do it this way. Try to get it. It's too much saturation. Bring that down. Another thing, so this is DSLR. So I did mention the last semester about like snappy footage. What I called it snappy. This is kind of what I was talking about. It's like I'll see a lot of people color their footage. And what would they do? They'll do like one of these, where they'll, is that even on? I see a lot of people do like one of these numbers where they'll go and they'll bring that up and they'll make it like super dark. That's too much, just a little bit extreme. I don't know, like to me, like this look here, it looks like DSLR. It looks very snappy. That's the word. I think that's what they're talking about when they say snappy. You don't really hear that too much, but it's the word I learned how to use. It's to describe something that was shot on a DSLR. It's snappy, where you have your contrast like blown all the way out. You kind of want to try to avoid that. And then also like exposure is like super off the chain. Like you see like these bars are like way up there. So like
Where's
you
your
want to try to
exposure? The beginning?
like over here. Let's see. Boom. Look at that. Jeez. It's like if you take it off, if you look at a histogram, all that, bring it back up again.
Yeah.
All of this, and then it goes away. Boom. Let me see. Where is it you want to go with? Darken that a little bit. Let me actually use the bars a little bit. Add some contrast into it. And take a lot of that exposure down. That's another thing. People like to I noticed like in cinema specifically, the exposure, the actual exposure, not the shadows or the highlights, just the overall image of a lot of people where they go wrong is like, it will be like super bright, like too bright. You don't really notice it because it's like graded evenly, but like this right here, to me, it's too bright. Like that would be more cinematic in my opinion. Like if you ever watch
yeah,
movies,
I feel like indie films do that a lot, where it's like super bright and colorful, and it kind of doesn't look as cinematic or as elegant or nice or fancy as it should.
Cinematography is good. It's just, something about it, it doesn't sit right.
The colors just look a little either overly bright or muted. It's always one extreme or the other.
Exactly. I think like I'm going in the wrong direction with this one. Let's see what I can bring out of it. Too much. I might not even put that filter on there. Doesn't look bad on the phone. And then saturation that I bring. Oh, I did bring the saturation up on this. And then I'm learning about this one. Yeah, that doesn't look too good. So before, after. And then at some point you have to make a decision on what you want to expose for. So like, let me see, is this the whole film or is it just like the part? So this shot here, thank God. This is a lifesaver because the windows are tinted, but I would have been in trouble if I didn't. Like I would have been in so much trouble. But like when I filmed it, I was like, yeah, I'm good. Look how good I am. But now that I look back at it, I was like, no, I really lucked out because the windows are tinted and it's giving me like, I just had lightning in the bottle when I shot this film. It was just like, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time shooting this stuff. It's another one. This is not a good one. Yeah, I didn't touch any of this stuff. So before, like, as you can see my workflow, when I first started out, I used to do the color curves first and then saturation adjust. Now I start off with the levels first. So the curves is like, you can ingest colors like Lakota was saying. The RGB, you can pick whatever color you want to manipulate, the red, the blue, the green. The levels, on the other hand, is specifically for exposure, getting your exposure correctly. So I always just start off with the levels, and I like to like bake it in there and then bring this exposure down and bring this back up to right around there. Then I have a saturation filter on there. I do. Yeah, it needs saturation. Bring this one back in there. So it's before, that's the after. And these are just, I don't know. I don't know. You get your if your cinematographer gives you some good footage, you really don't have to do much. And it feels weird. You're like, I don't know, it feels weird, but you will have sometimes you'll get footage that really just doesn't need to be graded too much and it just feels awkward, but sometimes you just don't need to really do much to it. But make sure that those levels are right, and that's all I'm doing with this one right here. Not really doing anything fancy. What could I possibly do? Film effects, you could add grain to it, but I'm not going to do that. You could add film effects. Let's do low quality. Oh, this is what I was talking about. We also had a discussion about black and white film as well. And I had brought up that, people's number one goal. Oh God, what is this? Nope. There. Yeah, people's number one goal is to like, take all the color out. But enable particles and stuff like that, scratches, take all that stuff out. Go. But if you actually go back and watch a traditional black and white film, they actually have color in it, but it's like ingested into the color. Like sometimes you'll see, where is it? Where's my color corrector? Where's the actual clip? Sometimes you'll see something that looks like more like that, as opposed to just taking all the color out. You can add blue, you can add brown, or more yellow. It's not just black and white. It's just, so I don't know. But that is my color grading example for you guys. Any questions?
Nice. I think you went through the whole process of.
Yeah, I was about to say, you covered everything.
Yeah, this is old. This is like before I got, learning. I don't know. The beautiful thing about it is that you will always go back and you're like, I think I can grade that a little bit better than I did last time. But you will always be that way. Oh no, this is terrible. Wow, look at that overexposure. You see, this was done years ago.
Yeah, it's great. You'll always find flaws in your work no matter how hard you try.
Exactly.
Right.
That's okay.
No, but it's good. You'll always better yourself
the
and
real
find new
thing.
ways to make it better.
Especially
Like a
while
big
you're
day, right?
editing it, that's when you notice all the flaws.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You go frame by frame, noticing everything.
It's a moment where you hate yourself and you think you suck.
Military is always tough to shoot.
Yeah. And not only that, but you go through phases. Like this here, like I was going through a phase where it was like I wanted everything to look like vintage film. You know what I mean? And it got to a point where now I look back on it, I was like, that's a little bit too much. And now I'm actually kind of sickened by it now. And like I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely styles that people go through and like try to see what they like doing. Or whenever people
I
try to
feel like-
match styles, like, oh, I'm gonna do it like we talked about that, how people try to like match Tarantino or something. Like they just try to do as best, but it's just not gonna look good. And
I
they
feel
need to
like it
find their
just makes
own.
sense because you get
They
so
can be
excited
inspired
when you
by it,
find.
but like trying to copy someone else's thing, it just never turns out well.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to copy it in order to find your own look. That's how I.
Yeah, you can be inspired
Because-
by it. Like I said,
In
you can be
some ways.
inspired by it and be like, oh, I like that look, but that doesn't mean you should copy
Yeah.
it. It just means you should like.
Even Tarantino says that it's okay.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
he says he copied other people too, so it's just.
Yeah, he
Um,
says he looks at all the filmmakers and tries to see what's good and
has to steal from them.
That's the
Um,
thing about
use it.
that's the thing about Tarantino is like he's so wrapped up into film or ingested into it. People don't realize that he's actually like copying a lot of stuff, and people don't realize it.
Yeah,
Because,
he's just more mainstreamed it at this
Well,
point.
people don't really understand the history. That's the thing. He knows the history behind it. So like if you watch Kill Bill, there's like 4 or 5 different movies where he's actually like, and I'm not talking like, oh, he's borrowing or taking a style. I'm talking like he's straight up like people were getting on me about Kill Mary, like, oh, you're just copying Quentin Tarantino, you're just ripping it off. And I'm like, he ripped off like 4 or 5 different movies in Kill Bill. You can't criticize me for ripping his movies off when he's
No,
ripping
yeah.
off.
I definitely feel like me and Coda had a discussion a while back about like a lot of people mention I hope no one hates me for this, but a lot of people mention the scene in Psycho as like one of the greatest scenes of all time for suspense and all this kind of stuff because it was the first. And even though there have been people that have done it better, without that first, there would never, they wouldn't have gotten inspiration, or maybe someone would, but it would have taken long. And so they always reference that. And so me and Coda were having the debate of like, well, what do you still praise the one who did it first, or do you give more praise to the one who, like, do you give praise to the one who did it better? Because being the first to do something doesn't always mean you're the best at it. And so, not saying that it was a bad movie by any means, or like it had its limitations for the time, especially, which is why he couldn't do more than he wanted to, more of what he wanted to. But I just think it is hard because people are always like, oh, you're copying this. Everything is inspired by something, especially at a certain point where so many things have been made. You're bound to find inspiration. And if you look at musicians, for example, which is more what I follow, you look at musicians, every musician says he was inspired by musicians before him and musicians before that and before that. There's always going to be humans inspiring other humans and perfecting methods and making their own take on things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I feel like people are very annoying about it.
See, there is this thing called creativity, right? And there is a point at which creativity becomes popular culture. So, which is bound to happen. You come up with something new and people like it, they are just going to be, using in their filmmaking. And also, what I heard was that if you're doing a specific genre piece, right? People are used to seeing some things, which have been kind of used over and over again in that particular genre. So there is also that factor there where you're trying to stick to that and tell the story, right? I mean, you could be doing something new and also being use that, but in general, you have most of it, which is specific to that genre. That also plays in a lot.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Vish, did you want to try showing yours again?
I do feel like
Sure.
there's a difference. I do feel like there's a difference though between like, oh, you're inspired and you're blatantly copying. But I also feel like, and this is something that you learn over time, is people are not as stupid as as most people like to think. Like you can tell when there's real passion behind something and when they're just phoning it in and copying it. You can tell when
Hey,
you're
Brian, can
actually
you
making a
stop
take on it.
sharing so Vish can share his screen now?
Yeah.
Is that the
So,
whole movie,
yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, this is actually, it's only like 12 minutes. Yeah, it's a 12-minute long film. It's like one of my first ever films ever. And some of these act like the lady you saw, I actually still work with her. Like she's in Kill Mary, the lady that's being
Oh,
held
that's
hostage.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome.
I still keep a relationship with a lot of the actors I work with, and now she like when I asked her for her pay information so I can pay her, she was like, "What? You're paying people?" Because she was just doing, she was under the impression, like I asked her if she
You're
wanted to do
finally
it.
paying me this time?
Yeah, like I just asked her if she wanted the role. She was like, "Yeah." We didn't discuss any of that. She was just willing to do it, because she knew me and stuff like that. But
That's
then
awesome.
so.
Also,
Where's
your
this?
whatever sounded like the Wayne brothers and White Chicks. It was very funny.
Why won't it pop up? I can stop sharing the screen.
Can't you like help him stop if she doesn't know how to?
Do you want to stop? Oh yeah, I can continue.
And you just sounded like a Wookiee.
Oh, there you go.
Well, now I started mine. All right, there you go, Vish.
Let's see. Oops, you cannot share screen while other participant is sharing. It says.
What?
You
Oh,
cannot.
Brian, I think you're still sharing.
You can unshare, I think.
Yeah, but it says Brian is still sharing. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I don't know how to. Maybe I can stop it here. Stop participant sharing. Oh, I can't do that. Okay. All right, there you go, Vish.
Right.
Try now.
Okay, all right. So I put something together, which has a combination of some footage that I got from the net also.
Mhm.
And are you able to see?
Yep.
Okay, let me put this guy out. And so I just came up with this concept of for this parallel editing, and I thought I can use this concept to basically project that aspect of editing.
Okay, cool.
So there we go.
Dang, those were long.
So-
Where'd you find those? The clips.
Sorry.
I said, dang, those were long. Where'd you find the clips? You said you got them from online, right?
Yeah, some of the things I shot, with her on the thing, and the footage that was of the close up of the wheels and all that. That is something which I got from the net. So it was a combination. I thought my shots were a little long, so paralleling is probably kind of was tough to see, at least initially, I think. But yeah, so there it is.
So was it the shots with the palm trees? Were those the ones you got off the net? I'm just curious.
No, actually, the only things which I got off the net was those wheels, that mechanical wheel kind of the close up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
rest
Oh,
of them were combination of phone and also GH5 Panasonic.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Some of the shots looked really like, I really like the place you shot. It was really pretty.
Yeah, it's the they have the corporate offices here, which is kind of very common to find here in the valley. They have like a lot of buildings, everything concentrated around the same place,
Right.
and also I think the bloom is here, because spring is getting over, right? So there's all these trees are full of
Yeah.
very nice bloom,
I,
which yeah.
I also thought it was clever to do like to do the shots with cars, the parallel editing with driving and that kind of thing. I thought it was an interesting, a creative way to
Right.
do it. I liked it.
Yeah, because I think I don't I just wanted to see how we could create the tension. You see that the car is going, and put some obstacles in there, like the green, the red light.
Yeah, it
And,
definitely builds suspense and gets you like, oh my gosh, where are they? I don't even know where they're going, but I hope they get there in time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had one scene which was like she's calling her friend, on in the car. I took that out because I had only her talking, but not the friend. So which would have not made any sense. But but I guess the key that I wanted to have an experience of was can you create the tension between I think we kind of talked about in our class saying that you create the tension by parallel editing, right? Show different parts of what's going on at the same time and see.
Yeah, like cutting away to the train and then seeing like, is she missing it? Is she getting ready to crash into it? That's kind of what I was thinking at first. Like, is she
Right.
gonna drive over the tracks and get smashed by a train? So yeah, it gets you thinking, gets you anticipating what's coming.
Gets you wondering. Yeah, I was of the theory she's running away from somebody or she's planning something nefarious with the phone calls.
Right. I think the music was kind of a little over the top.
Yeah, it was kind of like a spy film or something. Like,
Right. That music I got from
I liked it. I thought it was cool. I was even gonna ask where you got the music from.
from the net. It was from the net. But
You got it off one of those.
Stock footage and music. Yeah, nice.
Oh.
But this girl was is a model for Polycom. That conference phones that you have in the big
I like the way it was
offices.
cut together.
Mm-hmm.
Just well done.
And so she kind of had agreed to do for like a couple of hours. So I had
Yeah,
only like 2 hours to do it. So,
I definitely think you accomplished the goal. I think I picked up what was going on, like at the second shot of the train. It was like, okay, I get it. I think she's trying to catch this train. So I think you did good.
thank you. I think the shots would have been kind of. I guess it'll probably be good to have like kind of a rhythm. Like you have like long shots in the
Oh.
beginning, and then you have like a smaller. So there's probably an art to it, and probably I think better editing would show that more prominently.
Yeah, I think like at the longer shots at the beginning, it's fine. And then like once you start showing the train, showing the train and her obstacles, I think it would be like a good time to start cutting some of the clips in half and like making them speed up, shot, showing the parallel of or the cross cutting between the train and her as if she's getting ready to miss it. I think it would be more, it would build more tension if it was a little bit quicker near the end, like you're saying. Like as you go on, you get quicker and quicker.
Yeah, especially I think because the dialogues are not there, so it's kind of very tough to, the viewers are only looking at what's going on in the screen, and there is no dialogue to connect with, and that
Right.
definitely I think is kind of a challenge to edit.
I think I mean, granted, you probably didn't have much of a budget, but like, I think if you were to have a budget and you did have like control of the train, like if I were to shoot it, I would probably do like her in the car like you did, and she's like rushing, she's panicking, but then I would have had some shots of in the train, and it's like calm and relaxing, and they're taking their time, and it reverses to her, and she's like the direct opposite, kind of like polar,
Oh,
they're
and you
on
can get the music to symbolize that too, like really calming
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Like that. And really
Yeah,
like,
people
oh
reading
my
a
god.
newspaper on the train and drinking tea.
Right.
Yeah, it would have been the direct opposite. And then I probably would have had like the conductor get out. He's looking around, he's checking his clock, and she's still fiddling around trying to find a parking space. And then he's like, all aboard, and like she's like running up the stairs and something. I would have like exaggerated it so much, like just to have fun with it.
No, yeah, I feel like it's definitely, and that makes a huge difference in tone as well, like the pacing. If you make it like that, it's more funny and more comical, as opposed to like when it's more suspenseful. The music makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's just all of these little details that make a huge difference when it comes to tone and the pacing and energy of the film. I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Right. I think the visual contrast is what Ryan was mentioning. That kind of adds to the
Yeah,
tension
definitely.
going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm. All right, cool. Did you do the color? Did anybody do the color
Yes.
grading exercise? Oh, cool. All right. Go
So I
ahead.
did the color grading. It's right after this. So let me continue with this. I think it's like one slide which I took.
I never knew why footage looked so ugly before I started learning about film, like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. A lot more contrasted. A lot.
Yeah. So I had to. I think that was the exposure was definitely one of the issues in my shoot because I, not no control, right, and I was doing broad daylight kind of thing. So I had to bring down the whole the histogram down. So touched upon the highlights and the midtones and the shadows.
Mhm.
And I did for few of the frames on the main main editing exercise. But you can you can see that this is what it came down to. So it's my the sky is here is a little bit bluer compared to here. It's completely washed out.
Yeah.
There's no details to
Especially the street too. It's like way white, milky,
yeah, right.
and ungraded.
This was actually using the phone, the iPhone. So I had to
Yeah.
correct it. Yeah.
So at this point, you have to decide. You have to make a decision on what you want to expose for, and then on top of that, you're shooting through glass, so that kind of changes a lot and takes a lot of the detail out as well. But a fix for that, like let's say for this, if you don't have any options, you would expose for, because the outside is more dominant, you would expose for that, and then get like a like a small little LED light and put it on the dash to make up for the darkness. If that was what you were trying to get, like both the dash, like
Dash
even,
and okay.
but yeah, I that's a struggle. Even with cameras like the ones with the 13 stops and 12, 20 stops of dynamic range, it's still like, you still have to make that decision on what you want to be exposed when you're dealing with that type of situation.
Yeah, I
Right.
can't wait till cameras 10 years, 20 years from now are having all the dynamic stops that we see with our eyes.
I'm praying.
No longer have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Especially, I think this shot, there was a shot here where she's coming from inside here. This shot was actually way too overexposed, the background. So I had to tone it down quite a bit. And I always have these issues with bright backgrounds. You kind of lose the
The detail.
contrast. And I was like focusing for a particular place where she comes through,
Yeah.
and rest of the place it was like off focus. So this was yeah.
It also looks like you're shooting like at like noonish, which is like a really difficult
Yeah.
time to shoot.
Right.
Because
I had like a time of this was actually midday.
yeah,
Right.
that's hard to shoot. Like I've been on set, like me, I'm the same way. Like there are a lot of DPs that just refuse to shoot during that time. I mean, if you got to, you got to do what you got to do. But like normally what I do, like the last film I did, it was a small film we did, and I was telling the producer, they're trying to figure out what time to do this, and I was saying we're gonna shoot this scene, which was an outdoor scene, in the morning, and then whatever indoor stuff we're gonna shoot at noon. And she was trying to figure out why, and I was explaining to her, I was like, because it was like I can't expose for that. No matter how many ND filters I put on, like I really can't, fix that. So I was like, I'd rather shoot all the beginning stuff during the morning, shoot all the indoor stuff at noon, and then come 3:00 p.m. we finish shooting all the rest of the outdoor stuff when the sun is like repositioned itself.
Right.
Yeah, noon is a difficult time to shoot, but if you got to do what you got to do. If you got to shoot, you got to shoot. But
If you
By the
can
way, this
avoid
is-
it, try to. It's basically
yeah, definitely. It is so hard.
right.
There's a thing called scheduling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Planning
I
out
was
the
on-
day.
This station
I was
is
on
next to the 49ers stadium. You can actually, I don't. There is a stadium out here. This side, the bottom.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Does anybody else do either the editing exercise or the color grading exercise?
I actually have an editing exercise. If you guys want to check that out.
Okay,
Sure.
sure.
It's
You can share
on
your screen.
YouTube. No, it's on YouTube. I'll send the link. You can pop it up instead of going through that process you just did.
Yeah, all right.
Let's see if I can find it. It's got to be here.
Sorry, I was cooking. What are we waiting for? Oh,
Brian is looking for a video of this editing
Yeah, I'm gonna share an exercise.
editing
with you
exercise.
guys.
okay.
And then I'll
If
do.
you guys don't mind.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily sure that.
No, there's going to be another 20 minutes on this, so you get another 20 minutes. Then we'll make some excuse so we can go eat.
We still got the fill in the blanks. Brian, while
Oh,
you're looking for
crap.
that, should we just do the fill in the blank?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, you can start. You can start that.
All right. All right, everybody. So I don't know if you guys did this or not. If you didn't, we're going to go through it right now. This first one, it's just putting these things in order by a successful order of post-production workflow so that it goes from beginning to end. It might not be exactly this on every production. It's just what I would do to get it right. Does anybody want to start and guess one of these for the first step when you're starting your editing? And I didn't put every step in here as well. Like feedback would be in there, but that would be dependent on what your
Obviously,
crew
the
is.
last
Obviously, a
one.
bigger crew would have, feedback after like every single step. Whereas a smaller crew, you might have a few passes. If you hire an editor, you might say, I'll do 2 or 3 passes with you. So you edit it, I look at it, you edit it again on my feedback, and then you do that 3 times and then your work is done. Or also with a smaller crew, you might just have feedback from, you might do it yourself. You might be editing it yourself and you need to get feedback from other people, other filmmakers, friends, people like that, so that they can give you some feedback on what you can improve on. And so I left that step out because it differs. And then just backing up the footage initially when you're on set is also something, but I left that off as well. This is when you get it to, you're in post-production, you have the editor or the assistant editor getting ready to work on it.
So I would imagine last minute changes is the last one.
V says letter
I could be
P.
wrong.
I would say before
Um,
P, which is backup production footage and audio. Like I said, a different step would be, on set, backing it up while you're doing it. So when you get into post-production, the first thing I would say to do is organize it into different folders and stuff like that, so that you have the same, basically the same organization between your backup and your footage in your camera, or not in your camera, on your computer.
I
That way,
had
if
a
you need to go
question.
get it, you can easily find it because you're missing, video file C. So you go into the video file and you go look for C. So organizing it and all that, I would say. What?
So I had a question about, so I know that the, where is it? Because there's a lot of them. So here's my question. When I was looking at it, I got a little, I was wondering if, do you do the syncing, you do the syncing audio and video after the rough cut, correct? Or no?
No, syncing would be
No?
before that.
Oh, okay, so syncing is first, and then, second, and then would be the rough cut?
Nice done, yes. Well, let's just go in order. From what I could consider a good workflow to do. All right, so C, we already covered that. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight these while we do it.
Okay.
That just so we remember what we've done. All right, so I would say C first, and then like V said, P would be next in my backup, the audio, the footage. After you organize it into separate folders, name it and all that, now it's time to back it up into a backup
I feel like
hard drive.
out of all of the exercises, this one was the hardest for me because there was a lot of steps. So I was like, crap, what order is it?
All right, so the third step after that would be, I would consider saying syncing the audio and video.
Okay.
And I'm saying organizing footage and audio as well as titling it and everything and naming it. That's part of organizing it for me.
Mhm.
So, and then I would say do sync audio and video after you back it up. First thing you're gonna do, well, obviously the first thing you're gonna do is bringing it into an editor. Then once you have it into an editor, you're going to sync the audio and the video together.
Mhm.
And depending on how you shot it, you will either use automatic or you will manually sync it. Or if you use time code generator, you will use a software to sync it before bringing it in. So that'll determine that step.
Because a lot of this stuff depends on a lot, right? On a lot of variations. And
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So what would you guys say the next step would be, in your opinion?
all right, let me see. After,
After
Viewing
syncing the
all
audio
of
and the video.
footage.
Yes.
okay, which one?
Viewing all the footage.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You want to?
That was another question I had was like, do you only view all the footage after the rough cut, or no, or do you rough cut first and then view because you would be viewing it while making the rough cut, right? So
Yeah, but
you
you're not
would-
viewing all of it. So like if you have 5 different takes, you want to see all of them before you choose one to put into the rough cut, because you want to make sure that you are choosing the best one you liked the best, or that works with it.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't
that
work,
makes sense.
then you choose a different one. But then you know
Yeah.
where it all is. You can make notes while you're going through it. If you have a crap ton of footage to go through, some people will make notes like, oh, I liked this part, but only if it works with this other thing. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, then go with take 2. So,
I don't
yeah,
know if
would say
anyone else
viewing
has
all of it.
this, but I tend to, like, when I'm learning something, I tend to second guess myself a lot, even if deep down I know it or I've learned it. Part of me is always like, you're probably wrong. And so it's, when going through this, I was just like, oh crap, I think it's this, but is it? What if I'm wrong? And blah, blah, blah. And it just, yeah.
All right, so the next thing I would say to do is, after you're viewing all the footage as the editor or assistant editor, you're making, well, as the editor at this point, you're making your selects. So selects is, you pick out your favorite parts of the footage that you like the best. So I actually have mine Doodaloo. Yeah, so I actually did the whole pancake editing thing, and I brought my selects into a separate timeline. But before that, I synced it all up, and then I grabbed my selects and I just separated it on top, so I could easily see which part I thought was the best part out of the footage. And that's what you want to do next. You want to make sure that you are, whoever's doing it, is grabbing it. It's going to make it easier in the long run, because then you have all your favorite parts. You're not having like all of the extra footage of the slate and calling cut and all of that. You are just selecting all of the little parts that you think will work in the edit. So if you need to get a different version of it, you have all of your takes in a row, and you can just go through your selects, grabbing one or the other. So it makes it a lot easier in the long run.
Mhm.
All right. Now this is keeps taking a letter. I don't like that. All right. After that, what would you guys say might be next?
I need to set a timer real quick. So
All right,
someone
I'll
can
just say it.
speak
So
if someone-
this doesn't always happen.
V said Q.
No, I was gonna say that's kind of last. That's after you finish it, back it up. Now, again, there are more backups involved whenever you're making separate decisions, major decisions in the edit. Then you should back up your editing project as you go, so that way you don't lose it if your hard drive fails on you in the computer. But that's,
I was going to
it's
ask,
too varied. With some of the stuff that's too varied, I left it out.
I was going to ask,
But that
as
is
far as like
something
the
you might do is
sound,
back it up again after you make all your selects and everything, because you don't want to lose all that work. So you might back up the project file onto the hard drive now or something like
so I was going to say, as far as the sound goes, do you, because this has Foley, ADR, and design. So as far as the sound goes, this is referring to the things you add later then?
What do you mean?
Because
Yes.
it says Foley, ADR, and design. So these are all things that you add later.
Oh, post-production stuff. Yeah. ADR
Yeah,
is
okay.
re-recording the actor's dialogue for any lines that need to be re-recorded or a whole scene.
So would that be a part of the rough cut or no?
No.
Okay. See, those are the little things that I always get confused by, because I'm like, okay, so the rough cut is just the image, technically.
Yes.
Well,
You start with picture. You can add, well, we'll go in order in a second, but I mean, you can add stuff to it to get like timing right, but then you're gonna pass it off. If you're the only one doing it, you should do it in an order so that you finish, because you don't want to add sound in and then realize that you don't like half of that clip. So now you're cutting off half the clip, and now the sound's all different and changed and moved around.
No, I get it. I just feel like in the terms of like Foley and design and that kind of thing, I feel like adding a temporary one at least would be useful.
Letter
For
N.
Yes
For-
and no. Yes and no, but you still want to get to your picture lock first and then add all of that stuff in there, because like Lakota was saying, once you start adjusting, like you say, like, oh, this shot is too long, let me go shorten it. Now you have to do a ripple effect on everything.
So then you start overthinking it and you'll never get the rough cut done, is what you're saying.
Pretty
No,
much.
you'll just adjust all of the sound. Like you'll have sound files fitting your footage, and now you just shortened all the footage. So now you need to readjust like the entire timeline of sound to make it match back up again.
Yeah, so
Right.
you want
That's one thing.
you want your picture lock first, and then, I mean, I get what you're saying, Priscilla. It does like get kind of like, because it's dealing with audio, but you look at it like this: the Foley,
Especially
and
when
all
it comes to timing. I just kind of like in my brain, it just feels like it would make sense. But
if you
I get
think
what
of
you
it
mean.
like this, as Foley and sound effects being a completely different department, kind of like let's say like the post office, you go to one post office, it doesn't just go from that post office to the next, it goes through from where that post office where you dropped it off, then it goes to another post office, and then into a mail truck, and then into that mail box. So think of it like that. So the
Mhm.
first stop is the editor, and then once you are finished, you got everything picture locked, then you're putting it in a mailbox, and then they're gonna go to another post station, and then that's where they add all the effects and stuff like that. But at that point, you're saying you're like it's like writing a letter. Like once you put it in the mailbox, you can't like go back and erase and fix all your spelling corrections and stuff because you've already put it in the mailbox and it's gone. I mean,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
actually,
That
yeah,
makes
really
sense.
good.
Yeah,
Really
I was
good.
gonna say it's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, all right. So the next thing, this doesn't always happen, but if it does, it's called the assembly cut, where it's basically it's before the rough cut. It's where you just kind of place all the footage in order of the way that the script says it should be in. And you don't really do too much editing. Like you don't like edit out
So you
and
like set up your
fine tune it
workspace
or
pretty
anything.
much?
You just put it in the timeline in order of the scenes as it goes through in the script, pretty much.
So it's like you're setting up your workspace. You're setting up your editing software to do the rough cut.
It's more like just getting it out as quickly as you can so you can show the director, the producer, what you guys have shot and what you have available. So it's usually, I'd say assembly cut isn't used as much on smaller productions as it is on larger ones, because on the larger ones, they want to see if they need to do any pickup shots or any of
Yeah,
that.
if
So
they
they
need any
kind of want to
extra
see,
footage and
you picked
yeah,
out your
that makes
selects, you
sense.
picked out your favorite pieces, put them all on the timeline so I can see if we need to add a scene, if we need to add a line of dialogue because something's not making sense. And then
Mhm.
the editor will go ahead and make their rough cut where they might rearrange scenes to make it make more sense, do some cross cutting to add some tension, whatever else, stuff like that.
That actually makes a lot of sense because you want to make sure that you don't leave it to last minute if you need to do any extra shots or any fixes or any stuff like that. So it makes sense.
Yeah, because you have to schedule it, make sure the actors are available, and there's a whole process to getting everybody back together to shoot some pickups and stuff like that, or ADR if they
Yeah.
need it. Which that can also happen later on. All right, so after the assembly cut, I would say the next thing is the first rough cut. That's where, again, the editor's taking it. Now they can rearrange the scenes. They can rearrange clips. If somebody's having a phone conversation, they're going to go back and forth and decide when to go back and forth and when to stay on the reactions and
Mhm.
make the film as they see it working based on what the director has told them they're going for, like what kind of mood and stuff they're going for.
Honey, I have to say you did a really amazing job with this one. Like I looked at it pretty late, I'll admit. But when I actually looked at it, I was like, it's so detailed and like there's so much to it. You really did a great job.
Thanks. All right, so after the first rough cut, I would say either of these could happen, either N or D. So either additional rough cuts or fine cuts, depending on what production you are on. They might start calling it a fine cut right away because then you're technically you're fine tuning the rough cut at that point, or they might say second rough cut, third rough cut.
Gosh, there's so many cuts before the rough cut.
No, this is the rough cut.
No, I know. I'm just like it surprises me how many steps are before the rough cut. I always thought it was like 2 or 3, for example.
No, we already did the rough cut.
No, I know. I'm just saying that
okay.
this experience has taught me that like I always thought it was like 2 or 3 things and then the rough cut. But no, there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of like little fine tuning and organizing that needs to be done.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so I would say either additional rough cuts, so it's like rough cut, second rough cut, third rough cut, fourth rough cut, or you start your first fine cut, whatever. It depends on what production you're on or how they want to do it, but those can be interchangeable sometimes depending on what their definition of those things are. Or after the first rough cut, you might do some placeholder sound effects, visual effects, music, and color so that you can get a better idea of timing of where the things will be and what you need to cut around, because sometimes the picture is dependent upon the sound or sometimes it's dependent upon the music that's happening, or the color is really off and you need to see how dark it looks with the color or how bright it is, so you can kind of mess around with the footage to make it match. And so those are just placeholder, like this is the idea that we're going for. And so you're either going to do additional rough cuts and then get to placeholder stuff, or you do placeholder stuff and then do additional rough cuts with that. It just depends on however you want to do the workflow. And some people don't put any placeholder effects or anything in there at all. Depending on your project, you might not even need to. But I would say placeholder effects probably next, in my opinion, and then
I feel like that
additional rough
is
cuts and
super
fine cuts.
important. Like I was telling Ryan, especially for me, I'm very detail oriented. And so like, I would really appreciate those placeholders for me to have a better idea of what it would be like, of timing, of placing, of just all these little things. It would be a lot faster too, because that way you wouldn't have to think about those things. Like you'd already have an idea. Obviously they're not going to be perfect or the exact same, but you would already have an idea of how it's supposed to be, and how you want it to be.
Yeah, like I said, it really depends on what the project is, and if it's like a quiet place. Obviously that's really reliant on sound for how long you hold your shots for. So I'm sure they put in some placeholder sound effects, music, just to get the idea of what they're going for, so they can see how long to hold those shots for. Because you don't want to lock a shot off and say, yeah, this is picture locked, it's all done, and then send it off to sound and they add in sound effects, but there's not enough time there for them to do their sound effects, or there's too much time. And so that's why placeholder stuff would be used sometimes. So after those things, then I would say you get to picture lock. Picture lock is when you say, okay, picture's all good, we're not going to mess with this anymore. Now we can send it off to the other departments and they can start working on it, so that we don't end up changing something and affecting everyone else's workflow. You get to picture lock and you say, okay, we're not touching picture anymore. This is as good as we're going to get it, and this is how we're leaving it. Of course, depending on the project, you might have pickup scenes and shots. So it might depend on that. With a bigger feature film and things like that, they typically do these things in pieces. So it's maybe a scene will get picture locked, and then
Honey,
yeah.
can I ask you, when we are done with this, can you email me the finished version? Because I'd really like to have both.
Yeah. But yeah,
I just
so
feel like it's really useful to save, later studies, stuff like that.
got you. But yeah, so on like a bigger feature film, they sometimes will do it in pieces where it's per scene or per certain amounts of minutes. Like maybe every 10, 20 minutes, they will take that and say, well, this is good, we're going to keep this the way it is. That way they don't have to worry about every single thing being done at once, because that'll just take longer. So depending on how big the project is and how big of the team, you might do pickup shots and things like that before getting to picture lock, or you might do picture lock for certain parts of the film or this show or whatever you're working on. After that, next thing I would say is the spotting session. Spotting session, if you're doing the editing yourself, you might want to do this anyway, but especially if you're working with a team, you want the director, producer, sound, music, everybody to get together and watch this thing and point out the spots that need sound effects, ADR, sound design. Is it going to be created or recorded sound? Do we need composition, music here, or do we have an idea for a licensed music song track that we're going to use? That's where you watch the film and you point out where those things need to be and timestamp them, pretty much, so to give everybody exactly where they need to place their footage, or not their footage, but their sound effects or their music or whatever. Like, this is where you say, hey, this is missing this sound, or this, they're walking here, we need walking footstep sounds, all that. What just happened to it? Hold on. Oh, that's annoying. I'll have to reorganize this at some point. I didn't know it was going to make it bigger and then not fit. Okay. Well. All right, so after that, after the spotting session, that is when these things, like I say in here, 12 through 15 can be done sequentially with smaller teams or all at once with a larger production. So it's either going to be done in sequence. If you're the one editing it, you should have some sequence of how you want to do it. You might start with sound, you might start with visual effects. It doesn't really matter at that point. Usually in a bigger production, they're all going to be working at once to get it done. And so you'll have sound, music composing, visual effects, and color grade. Those can all happen. Well, color grade is probably going to be later or even one of the last things you do with the visuals, especially if you're adding visual effects and stuff like that. You want to make sure that those things fit with the rest of the footage. So you'll do the color grade later, but if you're done with the picture edit and you don't have any visual effects, then the color grade can go ahead and begin. For me, if I was doing it, I would say I would probably do my sound first. If it was just me editing it. I'd do sound, and then I would do my visual effects. That could be anything from different little transitions to CGI. It depends on what you're doing, but if you're doing CGI, you're probably not working alone, hopefully. And then the music and the composing. If I have a composer, then he'll be working on that stuff at the same time. If I have nobody and I'm doing it myself, then I will be searching for the music after that to make it fit with everything else. And then start adjusting all of that. And then I would say color grade for me next. Make sure everything looks good, sounds good. All right. I hate how annoying this thing is. Okay, so after that, after you get done with like the music, the sound, visual effects, and then the color grading, now it's time to do a sound mix. So you have all the pieces, you have the sound effects, you have the ADR, you have the music, you have the dialogue that was recorded on set. You need to mix all those sounds, all that music together to make it all work together, to make it work with the story and to make stuff not just be like a huge crap ton of noises as if you went into a zoo. If you're doing a zoo scene, you're going to have certain animals that are more prominent than others. Depending on what your story is, you might want the elephants to sound louder because maybe one of the characters points out, hey, look, mommy, there's an elephant over there. And so then you would make the elephants louder. If you just had everything being as loud as it can be, then it would just be a jumbled mess and you couldn't really hear the difference in any animal's volume level. So sound mixing comes near the end when you have all of your pieces together and you're going to mix it all together to make it sound good and make it work together as a whole. Next thing I would say, if I was doing it, if you're doing it on a larger production, they do it in these like actual like movie theater rooms. So they're viewing it on the professional stuff the whole time. And I don't know I don't know if they like take it to multiple devices or not. I'm pretty sure they just kind of stick to the movie theater screen and have a computer and other monitors, like a flat screen TV and stuff, already in the suite all at once, so they can view it all at once. If you're doing it yourself, you want to make sure that once you get that final look, the color grade and everything, like Brian was showing earlier with his phone, with his computer, it looked different when he was color grading. So first of all, you want to make sure that you have a good computer that, or whoever's working on the color has a good computer that is color accurate and calibrated for it. After that, you do your color grade, and then you want to view it on multiple devices. You want to export it and view it on the phone. You want to view it online. You want to view it, or on your computer at least, and then you want to view it on the TV just to see, like, does it change drastically? Does it still look good on each device? Am I comfortable with this, or do I need to make some slight changes and adjustments? If it's supposed to be completely pitch black, is it not pitch black on any of these devices so that the actual story is going to get affected by this, or is it going to be fine? And so viewing it on multiple devices is really important to make sure that it's coming across the way you want it to, no matter what people are going to watch it on. Man, this thing is, there we go. All right. After that, I would say you do any last minute changes. You view it, you see if it needs adjusting, you see if the color needs any slight adjustments. You're viewing it as a whole, you're getting feedback from other people because you're pretty much done with your project at this point. You're just trying to see what people might point out, that you can make slight little adjustments that aren't going to affect too much, and that's your last minute changes. So that's like the color. You know, if a whole scene isn't working for a feature film, or if a ending especially isn't working for a feature film, they will usually re-evaluate it. I'm not sure, you know, where in the workflow they do these tests with like test screenings, but it's pretty far along in the process to make sure, because you have to have everything ready and good. And then if the audience hates what you've done, that's when they either will re-record stuff, they'll add ADR, or they will even re-record entire ending scenes depending on how big their budget is. On a smaller budget, last minute changes would be more just like I was saying, just slight little color adjustments. You know, the dialogue's too loud right here, so you just lower the dialogue a tiny bit. Any kind of little adjustments you can make before you are completely done, that's when I would say that goes. Make your final adjustments. All right, got 2 left. Final cut. That's when you're saying you're done, it's complete. You're going to make your master version of this project, whether it's a show, a film, short film. This is the completed version, the best quality we can get. And now it's time to start exporting it for different viewing devices, or for a festival run, or for a theater run, or however you're doing it. You're going to do the final cut, and that's what you're going to make your master out of, and that's what you're going to use. You're going to make sure that it's completely complete before you just start exporting it, because that can start getting expensive really quickly. Oops. And then the last thing is backing it up or archiving the project. So again, depending on how big your budget is, you might back it up to film stock, or you might back it up to film stock, hard drive, and another hard drive. or if your budget's really small, you might back it up to your computer and you might back it up to an external hard drive and then put that hard drive somewhere safe. But this is where you make sure that if whatever hard drive or whatever site you're putting it to, you're posting to or whatever, if something goes wrong with that, if some error occurs, if there's any kind of problem, you have a backup of the completed project. You're archiving it for later so that if you need to upgrade it, this is where you keep your master file that is the highest quality that you have available. So when people are shooting in 6K, they're keeping a 6K file and archiving it. And then if a 6K TV comes out in a few years and 6K Blu-ray player, they're able to take their project that they made before and upgrade it to 6K because they already have that quality. And so that's what this step is for. It's making sure that you have it when you need it. And that if anything goes wrong with it, you still have access to your finished project, because all that money, all that time, you don't want it to go to waste. So yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments or feel like they would do it differently?
Not at the moment. I feel like as you did this more, you would like change it up slightly, maybe perhaps depending on like the project.
Mhm.
Like you would have like a simple flow for most projects, probably almost always all the same, although sometimes you might switch it up if you were doing a different type of project, or skip steps if you were doing, say, if you're doing like video, like movie stuff, and then you went down to like doing like a short, you might like skip stuff,
Yeah,
or like slowly.
right. Because some of these things won't be needed depending on how big the project is or how big the team is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think that that's probably pretty good.
All right. Next question, guys. Does anyone want to start answering this? What are the 4 main categories on a budget top sheet? It's 4 categories that the expenses fall under. And the top sheet is the general overview of the budget. So it's just like the different departments, but the departments fall under different categories. Does anybody have any?
You mean like pre-production, post-production, production, and
They're
that
called
kind of
something
thing?
else on a budget sheet, but yeah, they're kind of like that.
Oh,
So the director, the actors, the lead actors.
Oh, like above the line, below the line type of
Yeah.
situation?
Yep. So the first one's above the line.
Yep. Above the line.
That's like the lead actors, the big names, the directors, producers, executive producers, the writers. They can all be on the above the line because they are the ones who have the most creative input into that project, and they're the ones who name you'll see in a trailer or when describing the film, a film by this person, or this person plays this character. That's where the above the line people go.
Yeah.
Next.
Is on the line a thing? I don't remember.
No. At
Okay.
least not that I know of. Not on the
It's-
top sheet anyway.
So it's above the line, below the line.
Below the line is separated into a few categories. So there's below the line production. And then next, after production,
Well, it's post-production, right? But is there
Yep.
anything?
below the line post. So it's just like, but on production, it's all the teams that are going to work on set, excluding the people that are above the line. So obviously the director, the producer, they're going to be on set with the production and post-production, but they're not going to be included in those 2 categories because they're already in the budget on the above the line. But for everyone else, camera crew, gaffer crew, whoever's going to work on the production set, they will go under below the line production. Post-production, that's everyone who's working in post, the editor team, the editorial team, the sound team, the post sound crew, the visual effects, all that stuff's going to go under the below the line post category. And then the
Gotcha.
last one
The last one I can't lie to you, I have no idea.
Below the line other.
What?
So below the line other holds stuff like insurance, production insurance costs, marketing and distributing actually go under there too. All this stuff that doesn't really fall under these other two categories, that's kind of outside, but still helps to produce the film or get attention to it, goes
Yeah.
into the below the line other. So it's just like all the miscellaneous costs and as well as that. So the way to best think about this is above the lines, kind of like pre-production, you know, the script writer, the actors, all that stuff has to start happening in pre-production. Below the line production, below the line post-production, below the line other, which is marketing and distributing. So it kind of goes in order of process of
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
So yeah, that's a good way to think about it. But those are the four: above the line, below the line, production, below the line post, and below the line other. Whenever you're doing a budget or a budget top sheet, you will have that. All right, what are the three different kinds of cameras used for filmmaking? Ryan already mentioned one of these. What'd you say?
Mirrorless
Mirrorless, yes.
cinema,
Cinema,
and then
yes.
DSLR. Those are the ones you guys went over. Mirrorless cinema and DSLR.
Yes. Mirrorless cinema and DSLR are the main ones that are used on lower budget productions. They're going to use mostly DSLRs or mirrorless or a lower budgeted cinema camera. And on the larger budgets, larger Hollywood movies, they use high budget, expensive cinema cameras.
Yeah, when I read the question, I was thinking DSLR, cinema, and then I was thinking traditional film camera. But then I was like, we didn't go over that.
That is
yeah,
actually one of the bonus ones that I was going to say, film camera. So a traditional film stock camera that uses film stock to shoot. It's not used as much anymore, but it is used on certain productions, especially higher budgets that have directors that really like the look of it. It is really expensive compared to digital, which is why it's not used on independent projects as much.
I mean, now 16 millimeter, it's not that well, you might have a hard time finding somebody to process the film unless you want to do it yourself. But I mean, you could pull it off to experience. I wouldn't suggest, oh man, we got to shoot a film like on film, but like a 16 millimeter film, and then you can get you a really old camera nowadays. And I think they still make cameras that do that, just for not that they're being, I think it's just for like, just for I don't know what to say. They still make like record players and stuff like that play record. Like you can go to
Yeah,
Walmart.
because some
and
people like the sound of it better. They just like the way it sounds. I don't know.
So yeah, they still make 16 millimeter Bolex cameras and Kodak cameras, and the what do you call it, the Super 8, whatever that camera is that everybody used to shoot on back in the day. They still make that just for vintage purposes and stuff like that. And it's not really ideal. It's just more like of a creative type thing, or artsy fartsy type vibe to it.
Yeah.
I know Quentin Tarantino. I keep bringing Quentin Tarantino up, but he shot whatever movie.
I love Quentin.
Yep, he shot what movie is that? He shot Hateful Eight, I think. Was it Hateful Eight? He shot on a 70 millimeter film. He used to shoot on that. That's expensive. Once you get into like 35 mil and the 70 mil, anything above 16 is like super expensive for some reason. But I know the 16 millimeter nowadays, because it's so outdated and stuff, it could still run you some dollars, but it's not like out of your reach. Like you could still do, like if you want to get experience doing it, like you could still do it. I remember like they taught us that in film school. Like we had a class where we got to experiment with it, like just to get an idea. our teacher, he was smart about it because he knew, he was like, by the time you guys graduate, like film is gonna be like obsolete. So like he was just like, I want you to do it for experience, just from nostalgic purposes, so you can kind of like a history lesson. So he brought his camera in, reloaded it up, and that was all. That was the job all in itself, just loading the camera up, and then he took it and he found somewhere to get it processed, and we went and watched it, and it was pretty cool. But it's doable today. It's just not really ideal.
Right.
But
Yeah, my thinking is like, so when you're dealing with like, buying cameras and lenses and stuff, buy what you need and you are using for the jobs that you're doing or the projects that you need to do. Don't just like buy stuff to like play around. Rent something if you want to play around for a weekend. It just doesn't make sense because yes, you can buy and sell like your equipment, and if that's what you do, then it's not a big deal. But like it ends up like your time is money too, right? So like all the times that you go to the store, you're shopping for the right equipment, then you have to send it. So it's just like make sure that like you just get what you're using for your projects, or like yeah, that's my thinking there because it like also like equipment is always changing. Like what you get this year is going to be needed to be upgraded next year.
Right.
That's my thinking there.
All right. So any others? Any other types of cameras that people might use for filmmaking?
oh yeah, I forgot Vish said he used his cell phone to shoot
Yep.
some of his project.
I would say phone for any others. And I haven't really heard of anyone using this for filmmaking, but there are compact cameras. They just don't have as many options. So phone, I would say, was like the next one down from the list. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because iPhone is really big, but they got their own little selection. But Sony has their, it keeps popping up. Sony has a phone, Sony Cinema phone or something like that. It's like dedicated.
Was that the
Sony-
Xperia?
Hmm?
Was that the Xperia? I think Sony Xperia. I don't know.
I remember the Expedias were pretty good for a while, but I don't remember what it was, but they had like this one flaw that they said it was perfect. It was great for like photography and stuff, but
Yeah, the
it had
Xperia.
like some issues with other stuff, which was I think the way that they worded it was like they didn't know who the phone was for.
Yeah. Because it's not really a phone. It's a phone, but remember that example I gave about 20 executives in the room and 2 of them are dedicated to the camera, and or 2 of them are dedicated to video, and everybody else is dedicated to photography. Well,
Right.
it's like that. This particular camera, out of 20 people, 2 of them are dedicated to the phone, and then everybody else is dedicated to filmmaking and making this camera be able to shoot movies with.
But that was also why it didn't sell very well and why it's very hard to find nowadays, like at least that I've heard from other people talking about it.
I think it's making a comeback because it keeps popping up. Like they got this new one that has a Zeiss lens on it.
Oh, that's great.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
I haven't
awesome.
heard in a couple of years. I do know this. I've mentioned her before. I follow a blind YouTuber, and she's legally blind, and she actually uses like this super expensive Samsung phone to film because of the accessibility of it. And
Yeah.
I forgot which brand it was, but it's really like it looks cinematic. Like when she films the videos and stuff, it looks really good. And she primarily used it because of its accessibility, so she can film and do all the things with it, and it looks amazing, and she can control it.
I would think it's pretty dope if they found a way to link your phone with your computer so you could actually remote edit.
That'd be awesome.
I'm sure they're developing something like that. I'm sure they're developing something like that because I was telling Coda the other day that I just found out about smart appliances, like accessible for people who can't see, and like that can connect to your phone and to your Alexa and all this stuff. And I knew that they were there, but I had no idea how detailed they were, like how much they could do. And it's really starting to become more of a thing now in video games and technology, accessibility. So I'm sure in a few years you'll be able to connect your laptop to your phone and do all this stuff and all this editing and all this crazy stuff soon. I'm sure of it. There's probably someone already developing it.
All right, let's move on. So next question number 4. look at the image. What kind of compression is on the top and what kind of compression is on the bottom? So the top has blank compression where every frame is encoded individually. Anyone know the name of that kind of compression?
Lossless, or is it lossless? I forget. I don't. I'm just throwing
It has the word frame in the actual name of the compression type.
I was gonna say freeze frame.
I know we went through this, right?
We went through this, yeah. All right, so the top is the intra frame, which means that it saves every single different frame as its own thing. So when you're editing it, it's a lot easier for your computer to bring up a certain image because it's already there. It is a bigger file size because there's more information there, but it does help with editing. So typically it's used for a intermediary codec. Use intra-frame compression so that it's just better for your computer. It has to do less processing to figure out what it should be showing you. Intra-frame. All right, the bottom one. So now you guys hear intra-frame. What's the other one?
Interface.
What'd you say?
Interface.
Yes. Yep. Interframe compression. It only saves the differences between the frames. So in this example, the guy is moving his arm, but he's not moving his body. So the differences are only the movement of his arm. The rest of him, the compression type is trying to just take the look of him in the background and place it on top of every single one of these frames. The reason why it's harder for the computer to do this is if you go to frame 4, which is in the middle, it has to look back at frame 3, 2, and 1, put them all together to figure out what the frame 4 is going to look like. Because it has to take all the information that from the movements that happened in the previous frames, make sure that it's new movement. And then it also has to make sure that the rest of him is still. So it looks at the entire frame. Good, he's still staying still, he's not moving. And then copy all that information from frame 1 over to frame 4. So as you go on and on, you can see that this, for the computer, it's a lot more processing to do because it has to keep looking back at more and more frames. And so this one is used to keep file sizes down when you're recording. But usually if you're recording in interframe, which I'll just spell it out, interframe, then you will edit in intraframe if your computer is being slow and buggy with it.
Frame
All right,
size.
now we're going to go through a bunch of gear. Name these pieces of equipment. Does anyone remember what this is called?
One moment.
That's spider pole. I'm joking.
Oh.
I was like, did I miss that class? What?
And it does kind of look like that.
For right now, it's a clothes hanger right now. I actually have it sitting in my living room, and I have clothes hanger on it. It makes a really good clothes hanger.
That's an expensive clothes hanger.
Multi-use, dude. You gotta make the most of your equipment.
Priscilla, do you remember the name of this?
Not me.
She sucks with terms.
I do suck at terms. You know this, but I know things. Trust me, I know.
All right, go
things. I
ahead.
just
Name
suck
it.
at the terms.
Name it.
Let's say not a mic stand.
It can be used as one, but usually it's used for light.
Tripod? No, wait.
What does it look like?
You can't see
The
on the
shape.
screen?
I can.
The shape of it.
A pole?
I don't know. I think it looks like a C.
Letter, right?
Oh, it's a C-stand. Okay. What? Bish, I would have never gotten that.
C stand or a Sentry stand. That's what that is. It's used for heavy duty lights. It's used for hold up stuff for gaffers, gripping equipment.
What does
different
it look
things.
like? A C-stand? The letter. The letter things.
All right, what about these?
Apple box.
Apple boxes.
Yes, sir.
The ones that closer to our screen is the half apples, so they're half the size of the other ones. Does anyone remember what the thinnest one is called? What the nickname is given?
It's LA or California or something. right?
No, that's placing it in different,
Oh, right,
on
right.
its side or on its flat. What was it?
No, the pancake. That's what it is. It's a
Pancake. And then you have
Yeah.
half apple, quarter apple, full apple.
Or you didn't ask what the like placement of them was called. I remember that. The stuff I
Yeah, all
remember
right.
was
If you
over
lay
there.
it down flat, it's LA. If you lay it on its side, where the logo is, Matthews logo, if you laid it on that side, it would be Chicago. And if you stand it straight up, it's New York. Right now they're in New York style because they're all
One of the only things I actually remembered as far as terms, and you didn't ask it, of course.
Yeah, I wasn't even gonna ask the pancake thing. I just
Because
figured-
it's
All right.
so easy, yeah.
no. All right, all together, what are these considered as? Like
I
if
was
you're
gonna
not
make
looking
a-
at them individually, you're
I was
talking
gonna make
about
a
all of them
clamp
together.
joke.
Clamps.
I was gonna do that, but I do that a lot. Like the whole
Alright,
Futurama.
Can you
Clamps
guys
thing?
name each one of these clamps?
Oh, fudge.
Top
Okay.
left, starting first.
Well, that one looks like
That
what I
one does
used to
look
put
like
clothes.
the letter.
The
Look at it
L
sideways.
clamp,
What?
V clamp, C clamp. What the hell?
Oh, it's an A clamp.
I'll just do all the letters, and then at some point I'll get it right.
A clamp. If you look at it sideways, you can see that it looks like an A.
Oh
A clamp. All right. What about the next one?
The B clamp.
Super clamp.
yeah. What?
That one's a super clamp.
Wait, you're serious?
Yeah.
It's called that?
Yeah. Super
Oh,
clamp. It
that's
can
so-
clamp onto things. It has that jaw, so it clamps onto certain things really a lot better than some of these other ones. It's not as
that's
good
what's
for
so super about it?
circular clamping, but it is good for if you have like square metal poles or something.
So that third clamp, I immediately just thought of like something I would really like to have so I could get things that are far away from me.
This third clamp sounds sort of Italian, I think. Sounds like it would be like tortellini. You guys
Yeah,
remember what it's called?
that's a really big, not at all helpful hint, honey.
Well, none of the rest of the clamps are named this. We went over all the clamps. But yeah, I know. All right, cardellini clamp. That's the third one. I don't even know how to spell it. I think it's odd.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think when we were talking about the different kind of clamps, I was cooking, and so I don't really remember.
All right, what about the next one? It's given a few names.
It looks like the thing that America's Test Kitchen keeps trying to get me to buy, the thing that you use to scrape stuff.
Well, it has a certain name.
Scraper clamp? Never mind. I don't know. Honey, I just don't know. I didn't
A
know the
certain
words, okay?
animal or two animals it's named after. All right, it's named either a duckbill clamp or a platypus clamp.
That makes sense. Platypus clamp. That makes sense. Yeah, I miss the whole clamp discussion. I was looking at these things and just thinking like,
I knew you didn't pay attention.
honey, I pay attention
I'm
a lot.
kidding.
It's just I've been trying to cook for us too, you know.
All right, what about this next one, the one in the middle?
Ryan, you're the film school.
It's another
person.
letter, and if you take away that metal pole and you look at it sideways, you can tell what letter it is.
C clamp.
You?
Woo!
Oh, that's a secret.
It's a
Ryan,
secret.
you're way too quiet for this class.
I said
You
look at
went
it
to film
sideways,
school?
honey. You can't look at it straight.
No. He went to film school from now on. So Ryan's gonna tell us what
Oh,
the
no,
other three
no.
clamps are.
I definitely don't want to take the opportunity for
No.
you guys.
Yeah, no,
Yay,
Priscilla, you
you're the
gotta
film
go. What's
school
this
thing.
next one, Priscilla?
I have no clue. I was too busy being a wife. Feeding you and all that.
This is used in more. I mean, all these are used in more than just filmmaking, but this is
I
like the
have
grip
never
department
seen-
stuff.
I
Alright.
have never seen most of these in my life. The only ones I actually have seen in real life are the A clamp, the C clamp, and that one that looks like that thing that people used to use on TV shows to get the controller or to press
The
stuff.
Cardellini
Like the,
clamp, the one at the top right.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
You think it looks like one of those extending arms?
Yeah.
All right, this next one, the one in the middle, all the way to the right, is called a chained vice grip.
I
It helps
actually
you
remember
to
that
get
one.
it
I just don't
around
remember what it
awkward things that don't have a certain shape, or just it's really hard to get it attached to. Maybe like a ladder. They showed an example of the ladder where they did it to part of the leg and part of the wall so that it chained it all together and held it tight so it wasn't going to go anywhere, so they can hang their lights off of that. All right. Next one. What's this next? Bottom left.
Oh, 1 second. Now I'm seasoning.
It's called a
Ryan,
grid.
film school?
It's called a grid clamp. Grid clamps are used for putting on the poles. So if you have that C stand and you have the arm hanging off of it, or you hang it to 2 different C stands, or you hanging something off a wall, or you just have metal pole that you're going to make a frame with, these are great to put around that pole and hold things tightly against it. So you can hang something off the ceiling, just a pole or 2, and then you can attach a bunch of these and attach your lights to them so that your lights can hang from the ceiling without falling.
These actually seem pretty useful for like day-to-day life. They're not just used in filmmaking, are they?
No, they're not just used in filmmaking. They're used in, construction and I don't know, other stuff.
Every single one of them,
Script
right?
department's kind of like construction department, or like the, electricians and not electricians, but like the plumbers and that type of stuff. Like they all use this kind of stuff to hold stuff together while they're making it. If you're building anything, you're going to use a C-clamp or some variation of it to hold stuff together while you're putting screws into it, all that type of stuff.
Gotcha.
If you're building a basement, you'll probably use a lot of these tools as well to hold up some stuff, hold up some lights, just work lights. Anyway, the next one is basically a grid clamp, but it has 2, so it gives a certain name. It's called a cheeseboro.
Cheeseboro. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why, but those can either be locked in place at 90-degree angles, or they can be loose where you can flip them in any way you want. So it just depends on what you need it for. If you're going to make a frame, you might want the 90-degree angle one to make a perfect square, or you might want to have 2 poles on top of each other perpendicular. So you'd want one of the ones that's loose and can twist around.
They're attached, right, to each other.
Yeah, they're attached to each other. It's just in the middle where they're attached. It's either going to be locked in place, or it's going to let you move it around to
I see.
change the angle, basically.
Okay.
All right, guys, what is this called? Come on.
I can't see.
Let's Priscilla answer.
I can't see.
What? You can't see this?
No, I can't see because I'm putting food away. I'm taking it out of the oven and not
All
at all
right, come on, guys. What is this? This one's easy.
It's something that you go to the beach with.
Yeah, could be. Or you pick up the stuff off the beach and bring it home.
All right, let me see.
In a bag.
Let me see what it is. The heck?
You're picking up the stuff off the beach, that stuff. It's really gritty.
The trash bag?
No,
the first
what?
thing-
It's a
First thing you
sandbag.
touch.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a fancy looking sandbag. Ours look like that.
Ours look like that. I mean, those are actually, I'm pretty sure those are like the cheaper ones. I mean, you don't really know if it's cheap or not just from the look of it. But the ones I have aren't expensive. All right, what is this thing called? The thing on top, and I guess on bottom if you want to name both at once.
Dolly?
Yes, and a dolly thing it's sitting on.
And a dolly grip?
Track.
What? Dolly track. Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There we go, dolly and track. All right, what's this?
That's not the, what's it called? Gosh, I forgot the name. I know what it is.
There's a camera top left on it.
It's a crane. Thank you. Finally, something Brian knows. Jeez, Brian's been,
Brian probably knows all these.
Yeah, that's why he was so quiet this
All
entire
right,
time.
what about this? It's like the independent productions dolly.
Oh, a slider?
Yep. What about this?
Okay, that's the tripod, right?
No,
No, damn it.
I hope not. Man, my camera's
They
gonna
all
fall
look the
over.
same. No, but they're not. No. That's the
The
mic
Yoda
stand?
That is just a standard light stand.
Light stand. Okay.
So that's what you'll get if you're buying like a light package, softbox package or something. You'll get a few of these types of stands. They're not really that good for holding up heavy things, which is why you'd go into a C stand if you were going to use some actual heavy duty production lights. All right. Let's get into this. So
Barn doors.
no,
LED
no,
lights, right?
no, just all together, what would these be considered on the set?
Lights.
Yeah. All right, but what about which one's which? Top left, can you name the different ones?
One of them's like theater lights, right?
No.
Well, kind of.
Think about the different kinds of lights that we
Like a
learned about
spotlight?
last semester and this one.
Like a spotlight.
That's tungsten light.
Tungsten.
Oh, that's what you mean. I thought you meant. Okay.
All right, what about top right? That one gives more of a daylight temperature usually, while the tungsten gives off the tungsten orange hue.
So that's the LED, right?
No.
Oh,
Top
no, the
left,
LEDs on the
top
bottom.
right. Top right.
That
These ones are
is
really
halogen,
big and they
the
give off a
halogen
daylight.
lights?
No.
No.
Actually, what is the,
Starts with the letter H.
is it
HMI? I don't know.
HMI? Yeah, but what does it stand for? It's some crazy long name. So we just call them
Yeah.
HMIs.
Isn't it halogen? Isn't the HMI the halogen one?
It's a medium iodide something.
I think it's like
hydro-
hydrogen, something
Yes.
crazy like that. So it's no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
not, it's
Medium
not what you're
iodide.
thinking, Priscilla.
Oh, okay. Okay. I would have just said tube lights for that third one because, like, I'm just thinking of what the lighting fixtures are, the lighting thing,
You're
not the
right.
lamps themselves.
It is tube light, but it's called Kino. Right?
You know?
On the
Yep,
left.
Kino or fluorescent.
Fluorescent, yeah.
Because I've heard some creators call them tube lights, so it just stuck in my brain.
Yeah, because they are, but there can be LED tube lights. There can be different kinds of tube lights. They're not just the fluorescent ones. Fluorescent really isn't used as much anymore. Yeah, HMI stands for hydrogerium medium arc iodide.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Anyway, bottom right. These are the
LED.
most popular lights now.
LED, those are the LEDs.
LED, yeah, and there's different kinds of LED. There's not just these panels. There's also the ones that look like the HMI, but they have an LED light in them. So you can get ones that look sort of like that, and they're like single chip LEDs would have a huge LED in them. Or these
But
ones just
that's-
have like these little micro LEDs where you can see they're separate
Yeah.
lights, but all together they make out one light output.
But that's what threw me off in this because I thought you meant like the light fixtures. And so I was like, oh, okay, those are the
Well,
the
barn doors are
spotlight
those
with
things
the
that go
barn
on
doors.
front. So I mean that's a barn door is the thing that goes on front of the light. to
No,
shade
I
it.
know, but I thought you meant like the fixtures, like a tube light, like a
Actually,
like
the
a
fixtures are
spotlight.
tungsten, HMI, fluorescent, and LED.
no, you know what I mean.
I know, I'm just messing with you.
Where's V now? He's shading me. What?
He had to go. All right, what's this? We just used some of these. That's one
the
brand that does them.
softboxes?
Softbox, yeah.
Oh, wait,
See?
what was the last one? The LED. That was the LED, right?
Yeah, the one on the bottom right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's LED. That's one type of LED light. I mean, there's tons of types of LEDs.
Yeah.
There's ones that can stick to the ceiling, like
My
little
thing is
mats.
like basically know the basics, then just do it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, don't worry. Yeah. That's it.
All right, softbox was that one. Now what's this?
Is that the The sound thing?
Nope.
Is that a sound mixer? Okay.
We're still in with light.
Oh, it's light mixer?
Oh, I know what it is. I forgot the name, but it's that thingy that
I think
measures.
Sarah just answered. What, Sarah?
Light mixer?
Nope. Light meter.
Meter, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's just to
Oh my God, I'm
measure
so
light,
bad.
see how
I'm
bright
so effing-
different parts are, or compare them and make sure you're getting the look you're wanting. All right,
No, this
Priscilla,
is
you've been saying
ridiculous.
this all day.
I'm so freaking bad with terms that I couldn't
Oh,
even
tripod.
remember the term light meter. Like, what the hell? Like, I knew what it was.
You
but
know
I
this one,
couldn't
honey?
remember what- Yeah. That's the tripod. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That's one expensive tripod.
Yeah, those are.
Hell yeah.
What about this?
Now that looks like a spider.
That's a spy.
It
Spy.
can be used
Sits
to
on the wall
spy.
and spies on everybody.
Very scary. That's a drone, right?
Yep.
Really cool and probably expensive drone.
Oh, super cool fog machine.
Fog machine, yes.
Woohoo!
I didn't do a haze machine, but they look really similar. And unless you go really high budget, then they start looking different. But the cheaper end ones look pretty similar. But fog machine. All right.
The headset.
Headphones, yeah. Headset, I think headset is like when you
Oh,
have
you got the Sony's.
when you can talk into it, like when you're playing.
Oh,
games.
right. Fair enough.
All right. Certain kind of
Speakers?
speakers. A certain kind, a specific kind that you want to get if you are trying to make a production in your home. Sound room.
Crap, I forgot the name. I know what it is. I forgot the name.
It's when you want to monitor the sound in your home studio.
What is it called? Monitor speakers?
Studio monitor.
Studio monitor. Oh God, why do I suck so bad at terms? See, this is why I could never. This is why I
Which company
sucked
is
at biology too,
What?
because I couldn't remember it.
Which company is this? Looks interesting.
Crockett, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think it's Crockett. They look really cool.
Yeah, so it's like powered speakers.
Okay, that's the
Mhm.
sound mixer underneath, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that is a cool ass sound mixer.
Well, it's called like a field recorder and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
sorry, it's not
yeah,
really
I
a
get it.
mixer as much as it's just a recorder. The mixer, it's more like a panel that you can.
You
mix
have
sound.
to make okay.
Well, I'm just saying this is either called an audio recorder or a field recorder.
Gotcha. Just feels like you're nitpicking me.
All right.
Well, that's a Rode mic right there.
Yeah, but it's like not the brand. We're talking about the kind of mic. The one on the left, what is it?
That's a microphone, right?
Ribbon.
They're both microphones.
Wow.
Both microphones.
Oh gosh, the boo mic is over there in the
It's actually called something else. Boom mic is it's like a nickname.
None of them are boom. I don't see a boom anywhere.
Yeah, the boom is the thing that carries that mic.
Hi,
Boom
guys.
pole.
You know what? I'm gonna shut up. You guys are mean. I'm gonna be quiet now.
It's also the name of a gun, the one on the right.
Shotgun mic.
Yeah, see?
I know guns.
All right, what about left? The one on the left is the one that attaches to people's clothing.
Lapel.
Lapel or lav mic, yeah. Lavalier, lapel.
Yeah, lav mic. Lavalier, yes.
All right, we just learned about these like a week ago. What's the one on the left? These are stabilizers. What's the one on the left?
One's a dolly, not a dolly. Fuck, what is he dolly? Oh, I'm cussing again. Gosh, what's the? I just remembered the name.
This is actually a certain brand that makes these. I'm just going to use it as the word for it. For the one on the left, it's the brand that is most commonly known for these types of stabilizers, the ones that's actually in the picture.
Jesus Christ, what is wrong with my brain?
Does anyone know?
I know it. I'm just trying to remember the name.
Brian, you want to give it away?
You could just say a Clyde.
A glide cam. What about the one on the right? This one is more, this is more universal. There's like different brands that do this similar type, or
Just it's a
variation.
stabilizer, right?
Yeah, it's a stabilizer, but it has a certain name. These are the ones that are electronic. They have electronic parts, motors in them that move that adjust for the movement that the person is making to make it stable. Whereas the one on the left, the glide cam and types like it are manual, and they don't have electronics. They just use weight and
Honey,
gravity.
I swear to you, I do learn these things. I just don't know why I never
No, I
remember
know.
the names of anything.
I know. Priscilla sucks at terms, but she knows the stuff right when I start talking about it.
I really do. I don't know what's wrong
Honestly,
with my
if
brain.
you just know what it does, that's really all that matters. Like
I
you
know,
could
but I
show
just
up on
feel so
set
annoyed. It's like,
and just be like, "Can you show me the thingy?" And like,
yeah, I would
Yeah.
not survive on a set because I don't remember the terms of anything, and I just feel like, the thing with
All
the
right,
arms.
this next
and
one.
the-
Here's the thing. When you are there 5 days a week, you will remember the stuff within 2 days because you'll be
Right.
grinding it every time.
That's true. That's true. Maybe
You'd
I-
have it done in the first 8 hours because you'd be like it's right there all the time. When
Yep.
you
So the
look at
reason-
something- when you read like a page of like names of something and then you don't look at it for 3 weeks because you're doing a bunch of other work, you're not gonna the likelihood you're gonna remember is gonna go like a lot down.
So here's the thing, right? I'm a very visual person. Again, ironic, but when I see it and I see them using it, I will immediately memorize and remember what it does. I will just never remember what it's called, and that's my biggest issue is I don't remember the name,
So many
but I
names.
remember what it
Correct.
does.
All
So if I
right.
see it, I'll know it.
Well, the one on the right, does anyone want to answer it?
Humiliate me already.
gimbal.
Yay.
Damn it,
Gimbal.
Gimbal. How did I?
Gimbal, yeah, the gimbal. So,
All right, what about this?
those are like aren't they reflectors, light reflectors?
Yeah, yep. That's a 5-in-1 reflector. So, I mean, typically, the one in the black one is for negative fill. The one in the middle is supposed to be for like, one of the
Honey, are we almost done?
the rest of them are reflectors that will reflect different colors like silver, gold, or white.
I remember by doing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
How many questions are there left in this?
not many. Well, there's a few. All right. Is there any other pieces of equipment you guys can think of? Priscilla already said mixing console. Whoops.
The oh gosh,
The boom pole. You said that earlier too. I'm gonna say diffusion material.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Crap. Oh, the other type of lenses, the not lenses, the attachment that you put on your camera to help.
The filters, ND filters.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking of the wait, is it an ND filter?
Polarizers and ND filters.
Is it that little hooded thing that you put on top of the lens?
Oh, the matte box.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it a matte box? Is that what it's
Yes.
called every time? I thought it was called something else as well, like when it's round and there's the matte box.
Duvetine, flags. That can be used. Duvetine's like the black material you can put over windows or you can put over things to black out.
I'm
stuff.
thinking that's something that's like the matte box, but it's round. Is it still called the matte box?
No, those are filters. If you put them you put them at the end of your lens to adjust exposure and colors and variations. That's ND filters and polarized filters that go on your lens.
Oh, okay.
That box is just a hooded piece of equipment that's used to either adjust or affix a filter on there or to help block light.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Gaffer
thinking.
tape, slate, walkie-talkies, time code generator. You can go on and on, but I'm gonna go ahead and skip that. But there's like a bunch of the stuff we learned about this week or this semester, I mean, on the equipment front. All right, more names of things. You guys remember? This is for Premiere Pro specifically, so I don't know. It's probably different names of these tools. For
The Z
different
is
editors.
obviously the search engine, right? Or is it Zoom?
What?
Is Z Zoom or search? I think it's Zoom, right? Because it has like a
Zoom,
little
yeah.
thing in the middle. Okay.
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Then
9,
there's this. Is V the select one? Not V. R. No, not R. Shoot! Stop moving. V. Yeah. Is the V tool the select tool?
Yep.
Okay. There's, gosh, again, the names. There's a crop tool, isn't there?
Yep. Razor. So it's called the razor tool. It's this one
Alright.
in the middle. Looks like a little razor in it where it cuts your footage point.
Yep.
Not
There's one that
crop,
also speeds up, like pushes the footage forward. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in order from top to bottom because it's getting too confusing to figure out where to put these on the, in the thing. Select tools first, you're right. Track select is next. So it's a little box. It looks like the track, the timeline, and then you can select
I think that's
track.
what I was thinking, yeah.
Track select. The next one is the ripple. So that one will, if you make an edit, it'll ripple down the entire timeline so that everything stays in sync. Everything stays where it's at and moves together. So if you cut away a minute of footage, everything's going to go back a minute. If you add a minute of footage in, everything's going to go pushed forward a minute so that it stays, it doesn't get out of sync and it doesn't mess up everyone. That's a ripple edit tool. The next tool is the rolling edit. It has these two little lines and that little thing in the middle.
Good.
That'll make sure to adjust just the two clips that is next to it so that if you're extending one clip into the other one, it'll take up the same amount of the timeline for both clips, but it'll just start cutting off one or the other depending on which way you're going with it.
Hmm.
Then you have what Priscilla was talking about, the R. It's the rate stretch tool. That's where you can adjust the time, making it slower or faster, just by grabbing it and moving it. There's lots of ways you can do this, but that's the way to do it real quick. And there's the razor or the cut tool, which is C, the little one in the middle, like we already talked about. Then there is the slip tool, the slide.
The little hand one is for you to like go in and like move with.
Yeah, called the hand tool. What were you saying? It's the one where it's to go into the timeline and move the timeline around without actually grabbing a clip. And the next one is the one right above the hand tool is the pen tool.
The what?
That can be used, the pen tool. That can be used if you are using like a garbage mat. It can be used to help shape it. Or it can be used in like the timeline. It can be used to add keyframes to footage or audio to adjust it up and down and add in keyframes to other things. So there's your tools. Other editors will probably have these same tools. They'll just be named differently if they're named differently at all, or they'll just have the same ones. But all editors, the higher end ones anyway, can have all these same functions. And it's just you can do these things in other ways. These just help to speed up the process and make it a lot faster for your editing. And if you're editing a lot, you'll definitely want to use them. All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. So let's get through these. Look at the photo, answer the questions below. Which of these represents lumens? So when we're talking about light, we already went over these. Lumens, lux.
So the second one is lumens, right?
The one on the left or right?
The one on the right.
No.
Oh, dang it. Then I
So the
misunderstood.
lumens is on the left. Lumens just means the output of the light. So it's coming from the light, it's going, but we don't know in what direction it's going. You know, it could be narrow, it could be
Now I
wide.
remember.
So it could give off 18,000 lumens of light, but it's spread in such a direction that it's not going to really hit our subject the way we like, which is why when we're buying film lights, we go with the one on the right, the lux, which shows us how
Yeah, I
much
remember
light
now.
at a certain distance is going to hit that subject. So, you know, a feet, 3 feet, whatever the amount of distance they give you, they'll say how much light hits that subject. And you can see how bright that light is actually going to be. It could be really bright in lumens, but it might spread out in all directions of the room. So it's not really going to light up your subject as much as you want.
So you pretty much just answered all 4 questions.
Oh, right. I did. My bad.
No, it's okay. We're learning. Recap.
Refreshing.
I-
yeah.
I do remember what the lumens and lux was. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, I remember now. But yeah.
Well, dang, if I can write from a certain distance,
I feel like you're being slower on purpose so that I can just starve to death.
lumens equals total output of the light. All right. This one, you just got to look at a table. It's basically just like a question you'd get on a quiz. Look at this
What did you
table.
write for lumens?
Study the chart above. According to it, if you were exporting a 1080p, 24 frames per second short film for a web delivery, what would your recommended bitrate be? All the information's on the table. So you just gotta look at the table, look at the information.
Twelve, right? Because it says so.
No, it's not 12.
High frame rate, video bit rate, high frame rate, 4850.
Bit rate, frame rate, 8 megabytes, 1080p.
What'd you say?
See the 1080p.
This feels like math.
It's just looking at the table and picking out the right one.
It feels like math.
You almost picked the right one, Priscilla, but you went with the high frame rate. This is for a 24 frames per second, 1080p piece of footage.
So the bit rate is 8 then?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's why you went with the wrong table.
Oh, I remember right. Bit
The
rate
more
is
frame rates there are,
half.
the more information there's going to be, which means the
Yeah,
higher the
yeah.
bit rate needs to be for it to look good. If you're shooting 4K, you're delivering in 4K, then you want to use a much higher bit rate. And the bit rate is going to determine how large the file sizes are. And so you don't want
Yeah, I
to use
remember
too
now.
large of ones when you're posting online and stuff, because they can't, people's internet isn't that fast. And the website might not be integrated properly to use that kind of data. So it'll be buggy and slow and buffer. And
Or
people
it'll
will
just
probably
compress it. Yeah.
So that's 8 megapixels.
megabits per second. Yeah.
Megabits. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the reason I added this was just because if you are going to export something yourself, you just want to make sure you are exporting the right amount of, would be your target bit rate. If you were exporting, you would set your target to something around this, your max bit rate to maybe double this, just to make sure you can get good quality when you export. You don't have to re-export everything because that's going to take a long time. So you just go to one of these tables, suggestions, recommendations for video bit rates, and you just pick one based on that.
Again, I can't say how you just constantly amaze me, honey, with how incredible you are. This is really detailed and great. And the fact that you, with the schedule you have, put this together is incredible.
Well, thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, which side is using fog and which side is using haze?
Haze is the first one, fog is the second. Wait, no, wait.
No, you're
No,
right.
yeah.
Haze is like it fills the room, right?
Haze is the left, right?
Yeah, because it's
Yes.
all baked in. Yeah.
Okay, then I was right. Haze is
Fog's
left,
like
fog
that
is
big
right.
stuff that comes out of the fog machine. Haze is gonna be a lot more just like distributed across. The entire room.
It just the picture you took of fog looks very like all in one place, and so I was trying to remember what fog looks like, and it didn't look a lot
Sarah
like
just
that.
described it right. So fog looks like a cloud. You can see how the picture on the right uses fog. It looks more like a cloud in the air. It hangs a bit more. It's thicker. It's more opaque. And if you chill it, if you get it really cold, it'll stick to the floor, making it look like you're walking on a cloud or something like that. Whereas haze is a lot thinner and it spreads through the room faster, letting light pass through it, which creates those light beams that you see through the door and the top of on the ceiling. There's a light. You can see light beams coming down. That's how it's created. People use haze. Fog can be used to try to imitate that look, but haze is just going to be the better option if you're going for that specific look, because it'll be a lot harder to distribute the fog out in a way that's going to work. And the last thing about haze is it softens the subject because it's lights passing through more stuff. It's going to soften up the light as diffusion would. So it'll make softer light. So you want to keep that in mind as well, especially if you're trying to go for something a little bit harsher with using haze.
Is that it?
Nope. All right. We're almost done. We have 2
I know,
questions
I'm
left.
sorry, I'm hungry.
Look below, according to Walter Murch, which is a famous editor, what are the 3 most important things to keep when deciding on a cut or an edit? There's 3 main things you need to maintain. According to him, there's 3 main things you want to maintain. You can, continuity isn't as important as these things. Huh?
So, isn't one of them like making sure that the eyes are always in the right place or something?
Yes, that is
watching
actually
the
on
video
here.
on
Eye
that.
trace. That's only 7% though. So he says there's 3 things that are more important than that. So there's continuity of the 3D space, making sure that everybody stays aligned. 2D plane, which is keeping to the 180-degree rule. Eye trace, which is where keeping the things in focus that you want people to be looking at so that it's not confusing.
So is it
Mad
like
Max
pacing?
did this by keeping everything in the center. When it's cutting around, it kept the eye trace in the center.
Can you
So is one of them like pacing?
3D space what? So I'm just making notes. Adding notes here.
What was that?
Can you repeat that a little slower? 3D space is.
So the 3D space is like the maintaining the area, the amount of space between characters, things like that. Like when doing
The
different
180-degree
cuts,
rule, the 30-degree
cutting
rule.
in closer. It's like trying to keep it so that the distance looks the same apart. If you ever like use a telephoto lens and then you use a wide lens, you'll see that even though the 2 props are in the same place, they look like they're in different locations. So usually that's why they start cheating it and moving things around to make it look like they're the same distance apart. That's the 3D space stuff. 2D plane of screen is like the 180-degree rule, making sure that, the person who's looking left is looking at somebody on the screen right, and back and forth. So that's basically what that is. Eye trace is making sure that when you are cutting, the audience is going to be able to follow along. They're not going to be looking at the left of screen because that's where the action is happening, and then you have something happening on the right because that's going to be harder to keep up with. Then they have to move they have to look over to the right. And so keeping the eye trace just means making sure that if something's moving to the right, the next take is something also moving to the right. Or if somebody's moving over to the left of screen or looking to the left, then the next shot will be something looking to the left. So we keep that eye trace. We see what people are seeing, and the audience is maintaining their own, they're able to keep up.
Yeah.
So is one like, this is the thing, all of these 3 things I remember distinctly about because we watched like video essays on them and all this kind of stuff. The other 3 I don't
So what would be the
remember, but
main
I
thing you
think
want to do when telling a narrative project, a narrative story?
keeping continuity, right?
No, not
No?
according to Walter Murch. Walter Murch says this thing you need to keep, otherwise why even make the cut at all?
The emotions.
Yes. The emotion, you want to make sure it's feeling right. You want to make sure that it is coming across the way you want it to. It doesn't
Okay, is
matter
one
if
of-
that cup wasn't full before and now it's half empty, as long as the performance and the emotion of that take is the best there is out of all the takes, then that's more
Okay.
important.
So
so-
is pacing part of it? Because I know pacing can be relative depending on the story you're trying to tell.
Rhythm, so I'll say that's pacing. Rhythm he gives 10% to, and that's just maintaining that. Vish was actually talking about this earlier when he said maybe if I started speeding up the cuts near the end, it would get more and more intense. That's a part of the rhythm. So the rhythm could start slow and start getting faster and faster. It could start fast and slow down. That's what the rhythm is. It's keeping
Oh, actually, I think I remember this. There was a video where the guy described this. Crap. So motion, rhythm, and what would be?
there we go. And then the other one,
Well, performance is part of the emotions, so that wouldn't be it. What is the other one, honey?
story.
Oh, well, that's the
Making,
same.
making sure that it advances the story. You know, there's a scene in here that doesn't need to be in here because it doesn't really do anything for the story. Cut it out. If there's a take in here that doesn't really make sense to the rest of the scene, even if it has good emotion, rhythm, and everything else, well, it doesn't belong because it doesn't advance the story.
And that's probably the hardest part, honestly, about editing is like sometimes you have some really good shots that just don't work for the story and just drag your film down or make it too long or lose or mess with the pacing or the concentration of where you're trying to go.
Yeah, and so that's according to Walter Murch. Everybody quotes him because they most of them agree that emotion, story, and rhythm are the main stuff. Emotion always comes first. It's 51% of the entire reason you might want to make a cut and keep it. So even if all the rest of the stuff is wrong, that emotion, as long as that's right, he says, go ahead and make the cut. Now, best of all the things would be having every single one of these and it being a perfect 100%, but that's very rare. So you want to have to pick and choose. And he always says, go with emotion first above all else. If you only have a take that has emotion and nothing else, or you have everything else but doesn't have the emotion, go with the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last one. This is something we learned about. Sorry, what?
What did you mean by the story there?
Story just meant like advancing the story, make sure it follows along with the character arcs. You know, that if there's a scene where the two characters are fighting, if it's a cut where the actor maybe isn't as angry as they were one take ago, then it's not really following that story. That
Like continuity,
that
you know, like
Yeah.
making sure the pacing
Right.
and the continuity is right so that
That's how I understand it anyway. I could be wrong on that. But
Yeah, I think
that's
that's-
how I
I think
understand.
that's how the guy explained it too. Like when we watched the video essay on it, I think that's how he explained
And
it.
then if it's like an entire scene, you just want to make sure that it advances the story as a whole. And I think they gave the example of like, there's a girl and a guy and they're in college and they're getting ready to fall in love and they get married and they have kids. And then there's a scene where aliens try to take over the planet. And obviously it's a crazy stretch, but you know, that would be the scene that doesn't belong because it doesn't advance the story. It has nothing to do with the rest of it. And that's the example that somebody had given.
Yeah, he gave a bit of an extreme example, basically just showing that even if you have a really good scene, if it doesn't match your overall story or if it doesn't contribute to your overall story, then it shouldn't be there.
Right.
So basically cut it out what you don't need.
Yeah. Trim the fat, as they say.
Right. Okay.
All right. So the last thing we're talking about, we went over this, talking about computers and stuff. Now this is used on individual computers, but the more advanced and crazy it starts to get, they're used more in like a professional setting or a server room, things like that. But if it's just an individual person's computer, they have a few options to make sure that there's either different speeds or different
Is it like that
reliability
whole like
with their hard drive.
150 type of thing?
Yes. So what are the 4 main RAID setups that are used? All of them are called RAID and they're followed by a number. So example would be like RAID 17. RAID 17 doesn't exist. That was just an example.
So there's like RAID 1, I remember that, right?
Yes.
There's RAID 50, there's RAID 100,
No, you're going too far.
and not 100. There's RAID 50, there's just
Well,
these
on the pictures here, we have up at top left, we have RAID 0.
Oh, right, there is a 0. There's a 0, there's a 1, and then is there a 2?
There
Oh,
is,
I
but
don't
it's not really
remember.
used, so they don't have it
All right.
added.
There's a 4, right?
The one on the top right is RAID 5. There's not, so 2, 3, and 4 aren't really used.
Oh, I remember 4 because they said one has 4 separate boxes, the other one has 1, but you can easily lose. One has 2, but you can easily lose information breaking them down into 2 because one can like not.
No, RAID 4 is not really, we didn't learn anything about RAID 4.
No,
'cause
not
there's
RAID 4. I'm talking about, I remember 4 and 2 because that's how they explained it in the video, was that it was separated into like 2 different spaces. The information was like broken down.
So the way these work is you have different hard drives, and you want to make your hard drives work either faster or you want to make them work more reliable by having a backup in the computer itself. And that's where these RAID systems come in, where you're connecting different hard drives together so that it either improves the speed or it improves the reliability by copying the data to 2 drives instead of 1. So if one fails, you still have one. What, Vish?
Yeah, so, if you look at the picture on the top right, top left, that says RAID 0, meaning there is no redundancy. Meaning, if you lose one, you have to replace it. So
Yeah,
it's
the
like
whole thing fails if one
yeah. So
fails.
when you write the data, you write on the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, like that. Left, right. You write it like that, right?
Right.
And then the RAID 5 is at the top. You have 5 RAIDs out there. So if you look at closely, it says block 1 ABC, and block 2 ABC, block 3 ABC, block 4 ABC, right? And then you had parity. So basically, it is writing into each one of these blocks. And then it does a parity, based on what it is writing, it will generate a parity bit. So whether you're doing error correction by writing something, if you lose some bits, it'll go to the parity bit and check it. So that's why it's called RAID 5. Although it is RAID 4, but you see parity is another one, which is RAID 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I got confused with like the 4 and the 5 because I remember the video explanation had 4, and so I kept 4 in my head.
So yeah, so here on the bottom left is what you see is the RAID 1. So that means if one fails, right, you can swap it with the data goes. The data on 2 is same as the data on 2 here. So if one fails, you can replace this with a new drive, but you'll still have the data in here. Mm-hmm. So it's like RAID 1. So basically you have a duplication of RAID data of whatever drive that you're in, it is duplicated on that side. So that's why it's called RAID 1 as compared to RAID 0. So it's a combination of writing the same data on the 2 different drives.
So if I probably, I don't remember, I don't know if I remember correctly or not, but was it 0 the one that they said was like faster but scarier because if you lose one part, you lose.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
This was just talking about. So like both drives on the top left, that's RAID 0, and RAID 0 is for speed. So it's not really doing any redundancy. It's not copying anything. It's just sending half of the data to one drive, half of the data to the other drive so that it can read and write it a lot faster. So it helps you load up programs and save stuff and download and whatever else that you need to do when you're putting stuff to a hard drive, it helps the read and write times really quickly. But if one of those fails because half of the data is on one drive, half of the data is on the other, you just lost half of your data, and you're going to, the whole thing's not going to work because it needs all of that to work. It
Yeah.
sent the block 2 of data to RAID 2, to the drive 2, I mean, while block 3 goes to RAID drive 1. And you need block 2 and 3 to be able to read block 4. So if it loses one of those hard drives, the whole system messes up, which is why that one's not really recommended for safety, for reliability. You know, it's more for speed, but it is scarier because you do have a higher chance of your system losing its information.
And I remember the last one that they were talking about in the video, they said was super reliable, but took forever to load or something like that.
I'm not sure about that one.
I
It
don't
doesn't
remember
really
if it was
affect
5 or
speed as
10.
much. Like RAID. So RAID.
I don't know.
1,
He said that one would have taken a lot longer. Like not too much longer, but he said it would have taken a lot longer
RAID
to
2, 3, and
export.
4 is what he's saying. So like you don't really use those as much. They're not
Oh,
made
okay.
for that.
I really need to rewatch those because I feel like I didn't really grasp those very well. I might need to rewatch them.
RAID 1, like Vish is saying, is on the bottom left, and it's the one that copies the information to both drives at once. So if you have one that fails, the other one's still working and it has all of the data, but you have half of your storage. So if you have a terabyte hard drive and another terabyte, with RAID 0, you would have 2 terabytes for your hard drive, but it would be, if one fails, you lose all your data from both.
Oh, okay.
RAID 1 on the bottom left is you have 2 1 terabyte hard drives, but because they're copying all of the same data, you really only can use 1 terabyte of storage.
Gotcha.
But it's copying everything. So there's a backup, an immediate backup in your computer. Even if you use that, they still recommend when you're filming, when you're doing like filmmaking or backing up stuff, also back it up to an external hard drive because you don't want to risk your computer messing up or catching on fire or whatever could go wrong, and you lose all your hard drives and you lose all your information. So even if you have a RAID setup, they recommend still doing an external hard drive as well.
I think if I remember correctly, when we were learning this, our internet was being garbage. And so we were like, and we were late because our internet was being garbage. So we were rushing through it. I don't feel like I learned this one well enough. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it. But I understand your explanation, like explained it really well, but I want to like remember it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'll probably go back.
I'm just explaining to everybody. So RAID 5 is up top right. It's using 4 different hard drives. I guess that means it's RAID 4. Either way, the way those work is they basically copy information from one block onto each of the drives, so that if one of the drives messes up, if one of the hard drives goes away, you still have all the data that on the rest of the 3. But if 2 drives mess up, then you lose all your information. So it's kind of like it makes it a lot faster, and it also backs it up a little bit. RAID 6 is the next step up, where you use 6 hard drives instead of 5, and it can lose 2 of your hard drives can fail without you losing all your information. But if 3 hard drives fail, then you lose all your information.
It just sounds like either way, you're risking something with every single one of them.
No, because right now I'm using 1 hard drive on my computer. So it's like, if that fails, I lost all my data. So having any of these other systems is still going to work better than that.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it seems like every system there is at least one drawback. Like there's one thing that yeah.
And then the last one on the bottom right, that's RAID 10, which combines RAID 0 with RAID 1, which is why it's 10, 1 and 0. And it combines it by using a RAID 0 setup first. So it goes down that line and then it spreads the information. Half of it goes to the right, half of it goes to the left. And then it goes down again to 2 hard drives, 2 separate hard drives on each location, on the left, and 2 hard drives on the right. And those will copy the information to each other. So if you can see like A1, there's 2 blocks, one on one on hard drive 1, one on hard drive 2. And then there's A2, but it's over on the other side on these hard drives, but it's copied to disk 3 and 4 and like that. So that way you get the best of both worlds. You get speed and reliability because the speed comes from the RAID 0 separating it to the 2 different hard drives, or all 4, I guess. And then the RAID 1 copies the information. So half the information will be on these 2 drives, half the information will be on these 2 drives. If you lose one of the hard drives on this side, you're good. If you lose one on this side and one on that side, you're still good. But if you lose 2 on either side, then you lose all your data. So it's just about speed, reliability, and just having redundancy so that just in case the worst happens, you still have all of your data, you still have all of your
Yeah.
stuff. So when you're editing, when you're having films and you're working on them all the time, you want to make sure to keep all your information and make sure that if your computer fails or your hard drive fails, you're not going to lose all your footage, all your editing, all the edits you've made. And that's where these types of systems come into play where
And I will always be a proponent for double backing up your footage, like multiple hard drives and multiple different places and putting them in different locations, just in case.
So the bonus question was which RAID setups are for speed, which are for reliability, and which are for both? Out of these 4, RAID 0, 5, 1, and 10.
So 1 is obviously for speed, right?
No.
I mean
0
0,
is for
sorry.
speed.
0 is for speed, but I had one in my head. From what you said, 10 seems to be for both, right?
Yep.
5 is for both?
Yep.
And 1, I'm not really sure about 1.
1 is for reliability because you're copying the information to both drives. So RAID 1, you're just having 2 hard drives that are copying the same information. So you have a
Mhm.
backup in your computer.
Mhm.
Or, in a separate RAID setup thing that's like an external RAID system, which I won't really get into, but
Yeah.
There's an arrow mark out there. It basically says it's the same data on the 2 sides.
I just remembered that one of the reasons I sucked at the clamps question was because that was something you studied on your own and I wasn't studying with you.
gotcha. Well,
So I'm just saying, I think
all right,
I would have done
everybody.
better.
Does
All right,
anybody
good
have
night,
any
guys.
questions, comments, or anything to add? That was all
Before
for
we
the
end
fill in
it
the
and-
blanks. We have a quiz on Thursday, and we'll go over what we're talking about next semester. But other than that,
Good job, Lakota.
thank you.
Guys,
All right, appreciate everybody. Have a good night.
appreciate you
Good
guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Guys.
Bye.